morning. I hope your week is off to a great start. Welcome to the AM show on Joy News. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I do this with Benjamin Akapo. Now, for today, of course, we'll start with the news, and then we'll get into the news review. Dr. Wisdom Dogbe, who's a financial analyst, will be joining us to review the news. Then Haruna Mubarak will bring you AM Sports, all the latest updates, including that Black Star win yesterday. And then our big conversation starts. Now, former President John Dramani Mahama and President Akufo-Addo clashed over who has a superior record in the fight against corruption, as the former president accuses President Akufo-Addo for clearing house for appointees involved in corruption. What does this mean? So what are the facts in this fight against this canker that is eating at the very fiber of our democracy and quest for development? Are the public concerned, or are their concerns indeed ugly noises, as the president describes it? We'll find out more with our guest on the show. Also, this morning, we'll bring you regional voices as we tell it from our correspondents in the various regions, the concerns of the people in their daily engagement with them. So join us with your comments and your thoughts. Of course, you're welcome. This is the AM show. We are because you are Ubuntu. So welcome aboard the AM show. Let's start with the AM news in a bit. This is the AM News. Details now. The Ghana Armed Forces has issued a strong warning against attacking uniformed military personnel following a viral video where parliamentary candidates for Amenfi East constituency in the Western region, Ernest Frimpong, encourages miners to retaliate against security forces at mining sites. In a statement, the Ghana Armed Forces underscores that such actions are not only unlawful, but also jeopardize national security and stability. This, the details of the statement as read to you. Now, according to the statement, the Ghana Armed Forces has taken note of viral videos on social media calling for attacks on soldiers and other security personnel. We strongly wish to caution the public against such utterances. It is instructive to note that such calls are not only unlawful, but also pose a significant threat to the security and stability of our nation. We therefore condemn any form of incitement or encouragement of violence against our soldiers. It goes on to say they wish to assure all and sundry Ghana Armed Forces will continue to perform its duties of safeguarding the security of the state and protection of civilians. It is also crucial to understand that personnel of Ghana Armed Forces and sister security agencies are committed to upholding the highest standards of professionalism, discipline, and respect for human rights in the execution of their duties. In a situation where a soldier misconducts him or himself, the soldier should be reported to the nearest police station or military barracks for the appropriate disciplinary action to be taken. Now, it is important to note soldiers, like any individuals, have the right to self-defense when faced with imminent threats or attacks that pose a danger to their lives or the lives of others. In situations where soldiers are confronted with immediate threats or acts of violence, they are allowed to use necessary and appropriate or proportionate force to protect themselves and others. It must be noted that the outcome of such avoidable confrontations may be unpleasant and dire. Now, it is against the premise that Ghana Armed Forces wishes to remind and caution the public that assaulting or attacking soldiers is a grave offense punishable by law. It implores all citizens to respect, cooperate, and support our soldiers, and to refrain from engaging in acts of violence or incitement against them. Finally, once again, Ghana Armed Forces wishes to reiterate its commitment to upholding the values of professionalism, integrity, and service to the nation. They will continue to cooperate with sister security agencies to protect, defend Ghana's interests while respecting the rights and dignity of all citizens. Ghana Armed Forces operates an open door policy and therefore wishes to encourage the public to channel their concerns or grievances through the Department of Public Relations of the Ghana Armed Forces. And it's signed by E. Agri Kwashi, who is the Brigadier General and Director General of Public Relations. In other stories, former Ghana Football Association President Kwesi Nyantakyi would have to wait a little longer to know the outcome of an appeal by state prosecutors challenging a High Court decision for investigative journalist Anas Aremeyaw Anas to unmask in chambers before giving testimony in open court in the ongoing corruption trial. The former FA boss is standing trial for fraud, corruption and conspiracy to defraud over his involvement in the number 12 expose by the investigative journalist. An Accra High Court in May 2023 ruled in favor of Mr. Nyantakyi for Anas Aremeyaw Anas to unmask and be identified in chambers by the former GFA boss. Lateef Idrisu was in court and has the rest of the story.
Former Ghana Football Association boss Kwesi Nyantakyi would have to wait a little longer for two scenarios to play out. One, whether or not he gets to see the face of his investigative journalist Anas Aremeyaw Anas, a ruling that has gone in his favor here at the High Court, which is currently being challenged at the Appeals Court, or whether he gets his case to be dismissed here at the court and him discharged. Now, here today in court, lawyer for Kwesi Nyantakyi repeated his earlier appeal or plea to the court for the court to discharge his client because of the quote and unquote delay tactics being employed by state prosecutors who, I must say, were not in court today for the trial. But the sitting judge, Justice Mary Louise Simmons, after listening to the plea by the counsel for Mr. Nyantakyi, argued that there is a case sitting at the appeals court, and so she cannot discharge Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi. She would have to wait for the appeals court decision before she makes any further moves on the case that is currently sitting in her court. The case has been adjourned to July 10 at 9 a.m. when it's recalled here at the High Court, by which time the expectation of the court is that the appeals court would have come through with a determination on whether or not Anas Aremeyaw Anas should unmask or otherwise. From the court complex, Lateef Idrisu reporting for Joy News.
Away from that, at a book launch in Accra, Dr. Eche Sikanku, a political science lecturer at the University of Media, Arts and Communication, at his book launch here in Accra, highlighted the significant contributions Dr. Bawumia has made to political discourse, policy and programs since becoming vice president. According to him, Dr. Bawumia's activism, energy and dynamism in his role deserves to be documented. There's more in this report.
The book, which uses Dr. Bawumia as a case study, highlights his role as vice president and details how he has leveraged the vice presidency to significantly contribute to political discourse, influence policy decisions, and implement impactful programs.
So the purpose of this book was to throw more light on the institution of the vice presidency and how it has evolved over time. We also used Dr. Bawumia as a primer or as a case study to show how he had used that institution as an instrument to bring about things or to advocate for things that he was passionate about, but also to look at how his activeness, his dutifulness, his commitment had transformed the institution of the vice presidency.
Dr. Sikanku explained that the motive behind the book was to shed light on a time in Ghana's democratic history when the vice presidency became visible and influential. He also hopes the book will contribute to academic research in political science, leadership, and communication.
So it is just to recognize a particular time within our democratic history where we have seen a more prominent, a more visible vice presidency, which is very different from what we've had in the past, right? So this is really the purpose of it, to document such an evolution of the vice presidency and to tease up the values that are embedded in the personality who has been at the center of such an evolutionary transformation. The purpose of this is to really contribute to the democratic space in Ghana, to contribute to academic studies, to contribute to studies in political science, leadership, communication, African affairs, international studies. The purpose of that is to just throw light, to be reflective of a particular personality in our politics.
Dr. Sikanko noted that in many democracies, the role of the vice presidency has traditionally been limited to symbolic duties and adherence to long-standing tradition. Therefore, Dr. Bawumia's unique contributions and proactive efforts warrant thorough documentation and recognition.
Vice President Bawumia has done for this nation what Walter Mondale did for the United States in terms of the institutional transformation of the vice presidency. Making it a more prominent role, a more active role, and a more useful, it's a more useful and meaningful role beyond the traditional things that we're expecting to do. Because if you look at the constitutional provisions, it is just really very limited.
Sarah Mentor's report read to you.
Now, Bono East Regional Manager of the Forestry Commission, Dixon Ejay-Sechi, has charged residents of the area to own the tree planting initiative as part of government's drive aimed at restoring the country's depleted forest cover. He made this call during a tree planting exercise at the Kintampo Waterfalls as part of the regional launch of Green Ghana Day. Anas Sabit has more.
The Green Ghana project, launched in the year 2021 by the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is aimed at restoring Ghana's depleted forest cover and contributing to the global fight against climate change. The latest drive of the initiative, held under the theme Growing for a Greener Tomorrow, is expected to increase the cumulative tally of trees planted to over 52 million across the country. Speaking at the Bono East regional version of the exercise, Regional Forestry Manager Dixon Ejay-Sechi expressed the relevance of the tree planting exercise to the region, which currently serves as the transition zone between the savanna and the forest zones.
This region, we should take it, the Green Ghana Day celebration, more serious than any other region, because this is more or less the middle between the northern part and then the forest. So if you do not take this exercise seriously, and then the impact of the climate change comes, we are going to experience the impact more severely than those who are in the forested areas. Because now we all are aware that the rainfall pattern has changed. In terms of severity, when it comes to the sun, it is too much.
With the region's target of planting 110,000 seedlings, Dixon Ejay-Sechi says measures are already being instituted to ensure that the planted seedlings are nurtured to the extent that they don't die along the way. He urged the general public to own the project to enable the region achieve its aim.
So, before having a system that we will come to where you have planted it to do the monitoring and the verification, but I want all the people in the region, especially those in this part of the region, to own the process of this tree planting under the Green Ghana Day, because that's the only way we can together green our environment and achieve the theme that we have set for ourselves, that growing for a greener tomorrow.
The One Student, One Tree initiative is another key component of the Green in Ghana project, which aims at inculcating the culture of planting and nurturing trees in students. Regional Education Director Nana Kubiajo Bakate II says the Education Directorate will be religiously supervising the initiative to ensure that school compounds will have its trees nurtured.
In fact, the call on us today is that education should ensure that our learners, our pupils, our students, both in basic and secondary schools, they make sure every student plants a tree. All the school compounds will try and plant trees there. And I'm going to supervise, I'm going to champion. I'm very happy that this call has come at this particular time, that we are trying to make Ghana green.
Paramount Chief of the more traditional area, Nana Kweku Dankwa III, who spoke on behalf of Nananom, advised that on the Green Ghana Day 2025, government should halt the tree planting exercise and ensure that the day is used to monitor the growth of the trees planted over the few years.
Minister, Anka, Fampra, Emananatu, say, Ebeya, yeba no yenje dua na yensa nante hunhunu se enua na yedua no aye adwuma na enkoba se de na kaye no chama kaye no you dua nua no a afie beba ukohwa na nua no na yeba saa.
Other members of the public who observed the tree planting exercise commended the government for this initiative. Nana Boateng is one of them.
This day is very important, and I think it should even come beyond the Valentine's Days and other days, because greening Ghana is greening the world. Just as we eat, just as we drink, tree planting should be an everyday life.
This year's Green Ghana Day event for the Bono East region was held at the famous Kintampo waterfall. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Kintampo.
Now, still on Ghana's forest degradation, experts have emphasized the need to identify other causes of forest degradation to effectively combat the destruction of the country's forest cover. They warn the country risks losing its entire forest cover if additional measures to address forest depletion are not explored. They've been suggesting alternative measures to mitigate the destruction of the country's forest cover. Kofi Siao has more in the following report.
According to the Ministry of Environment, the country is fast losing its forest cover. The loss has led to soil erosion, nutrient depletion, and reduced water retention capacity, among others. As a result, government has been making conscious efforts to mitigate the depletion rate by introducing the Green Ghana project. The initiative is to plant millions of trees to replace lost ones. Over the years, many critics have attributed the cause to mainly illegal mining. However, experts recommend a comprehensive approach to tackling the issue. They want the focus to target other agents of forest destruction, such as urbanization, farming, construction, illegal logging, among others. Felix Adotre is the Eastern Regional EPA boss.
Our trees are going. They are day in and day out going because of these activities I've mentioned, because of mining, both legal and illegal. Because even if you have a permit, you still have to clear the vegetation to be able to do the work. So both legal and illegal farming activities these days is also taking our trees away. Others are just wantonly cutting the trees. Timber activities, construction, now urbanization is also adding to the destruction of the trees.
The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources has been touting the success of the Green Ghana initiative, claiming a 73% survival rate of trees planted. The Eastern Regional Manager of the Forestry Commission, Isaac Noble Lechance, says in spite of this achievement, it is important for stakeholders to intensify the fight against environmental degradation.
We are even experiencing the effects that the deforestation is bringing us. So we still call on people to rally behind the call to plant trees and also fight or prevent people from felling trees indiscriminately. And I believe if we do so, we will all benefit from it in future.
The Eastern region, like all other regions, also planted dozens of trees to observe the Green Ghana Day. Addressing a ceremony to precede the event, the regional minister set a champion called on stakeholders to contribute effectively to restoring the country's forest cover.
The theme for the 2024 edition of the Green Ghana Day project, and I quote, "Growing for a greener tomorrow," unquote, places enormous responsibility on us to collectively ensure that we leave future generations and communities with richer, better and more valuable forest and wildlife endowment than we inherited. It is a clarion call to renew our commitment and rededicate ourselves to ensure a sustainable future.
The region, as part of the Green Ghana Day event, planted 700,000 trees of different species. From the Eastern region, Edwin Kofi Siao for Joy News.
The German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Crew, has urged Ghanaians to use audit services reports to hold duty bearers accountable. This, he says, will lead to transparent financial management and enhance the trust of the people. The ambassador said this at the commissioning of an ultra-modern regional office of the audit service at Akufo-Addo in the Eastern region. Kofi Siam again.
The new edifice is among two other regional offices in the Central and Volta regions funded by the German government. It will strengthen the structures of the audit service and enhance the execution of its constitutional mandate. Speaking at the official inauguration, the German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Crow, urged Ghanaians to ensure duty bearers follow the rules of transparency.
The reports that are produced by this institution, it is about what is done with these observations and recommendations that are put on paper. And this does not depend on the audit service alone, but this depends on any citizen of this country. So only if you decide to hold your members of parliament, your municipalities accountable and use these reports to make sure that they follow the rules of transparency, then the Ghana Audit Service will be very, very successful for the progress and the prosperity of the people in Ghana.
The Auditor General, Johnson Ekwe-Amoah-Siedu, lauded the President for increasing the Audit Service's annual budget, which he says has enabled them to renovate some of the offices.
This reality has been due to the massive support of the government to the Audit Service in our determination to help curb the menace of corruption. Your Excellency, since assuming office as President of the Republic of Ghana, you have steadfastly increased our annual budget, and this is what has made it possible for us to renovate a number of Government of Ghana funded office projects that were abandoned in between the year 2010 and 2012.
The Eastern Regional Minister, Seth Echampon, who read a speech on behalf of President Akufo-Addo, urged public institutions to cooperate with the audit service and ensure compliance with audit recommendations to improve public financial management.
As we commission this facility today, I urge all public institutions and officers in the Eastern region to cooperate fully with the audit service. Compliance with audit recommendations is essential for improving public sector performance and achieving the desired outcomes of our development agenda. Government remains committed to supporting the audit service in its efforts to improve public financial management. We will continue to provide the necessary resources and support to ensure that the service can operate independently and effectively.
Meanwhile, government has secured funding for the construction of additional regional and district offices for the audit service across the country. From Akufo-Addo in the Eastern region, Kofi Siam reporting for Joy News.
The Ghana Medical Association fears shortage of critical medical supplies in hospitals nationwide if the 118 containers of essential malaria, tuberculosis and HIV medications continues to stay at the Tema port. Outstanding demurrage and third-party charges totaling 7 million cedis is causing the delays in clearance. The Global Fund, which offered the drugs, has issued a final ultimatum to Ghana. The medicines, which arrived in October last year, to be cleared. General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Richard Salome, warns further delays will be catastrophic for TB patients who are already feeling the pinch. Dr. Salome is urging government to quickly intervene as some hospitals are already running out of these critical drugs, with the situation expected to worsen by month's end. And that's it, but coming up next is Business Update with Benjamin Akakbo.
Let's settle for business now. And in our first story, economist Professor Patrick Esuming has stated that although the cedi is gaining some grounds against the dollar, funds from the IMF may not sustain it in the long term since the Bank of Ghana is not allowed to intervene in the market. He spoke to Joy Business.
There's been a general expectation following communication from the IMF and also from our own local, the Ministry of Finance, that the expectation has largely been that by the end of June, we would have gone through this. So these funds will come. And also, we have to look at the quantum of the money we are receiving and, how much of a difference it will make to our reserve position. But when you put all of that aside, there's some sense within the market that even when we receive these funds, the Bank of Ghana is restricted in its ability to intervene in the market because, we have to meet some reserve requirement, some gross international reserve requirement and net international reserve requirement in the IMF program. So in some sense, that inhibits the ability of the central bank to intervene even when you receive these funds. So overall, I'm not sure that just this announcement is enough to make a substantial change in terms of how the city has been performing. In terms of dealing with the city, we need to have a longer-term plan and we need to have a short-term plan. At the moment, we can't go and do any Eurobond. I think there has to be some improvement in how the management of the economy is going. I think for a long time, it appears that we've been in some state of a law. There's nothing really happening in terms of how we are managing the economy. So I think if we get any sense that there's some concrete plan, something new coming our way, maybe that might be enough to judge just get some reaction from the investors. But until now, I think, the only thing that we know is the longer term solutions, diversifying our exports and then cutting down our imports. That is not something we do in the short term.
Let's talk power now. And the executive director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Benjamin Boakye, has raised concerns about the security of Ghana's power sector. According to him, the politicization of the sector jeopardizes the reliable supply of affordable power over the next 5 years. He expressed these concerns at the West African Mining and Power Expo in Accra.
It cannot be affordable if we're already making losses with the way we're operating it, even at this point. The only way we can make it affordable is to eliminate the losses, drive competition, and allow the businesses to drive the cost in the sector. And our position has always been that when you have a regulator, you only have to build the capacity of the regulators. And in Ghana, we have too many regulators, in my assessment. And yet, government wants to do the business. All right? And when you are doing the business and also regulating the same business, it doesn't work. And we don't need anybody to tell us that the problems we have is because we are doing the business and regulating it, and it's not working. We better perhaps forgo one. If we think we want to do the business, just do the business and stop regulating it so that we save some money on the regulatory side. If you want to regulate it, then you allow private sector to drive it. And I keep saying that we have tagged the energy sector as a national security infrastructure just to keep the politics relevant so that they tell you if the private sector does it, we will not have the light on. But we own the national security architecture, the infrastructure, and everything as a sovereign. We need to be able to assert our authority and allow, otherwise government will start taking over all other businesses because every business is relevant, right? And consistently we keep pumping money, and government commitment in the energy sector in excess of $1.5 billion a year because we're doing politics with it, and we are not running it as efficient as we should.
On that power-related note, we cap off the business updates, handing over back to you, Sweetie Abochi.
And that brings us to the end of the AM News. Financial analyst Dr. Wisdom Dogbe is joining us for the news review. Stick and stay.
Welcome back. Time now for the news review, and we'll be getting into the papers shortly. But just to announce to you, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helps us bring you this segment every weekday morning. And today is none different. What are they offering you? Prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches, starting from here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronoma Bwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiaman Zama. Their call lines remain 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sweetie Abachi, today is not Mary Poppins, it's not Red Riding Hood. This is a... Are you a Navy SEAL?
Today is serious woman.
You're blinging, and it's a nice combo.
Thank you, Benjamin.
I see. Yeah. Well, let's introduce our guest. Let's usher in...
Dr. Wisdom Dogbe. He's a financial analyst, and it's always a pleasure when he joins us for the Newspaper Review. Welcome aboard, Doctor. I think you'd have to unmute if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
Our pleasure, always. So just to kickstart the conversations, you have about a minute or two, as we do, to get into any topical issue that you have some reaction to. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Sweetie, I think that this is actually completely different, right, from the major issues going on. But I think that the way cement prices have been surging, I think is a concern because it has significant implications for various sectors of the economy. If I recall correctly, the price of a bag of cement was about 30 cedis 2 or 3 years ago. And at this current price, I wonder how many folks will be in a hurry to build. And for those who are already building, right, this is just a burden and such an undue inconvenience on them. Evidently, the cost of construction is now even higher. And my fear is that it negatively affects the fight to ensure affordable housing in the nation. A lot of people are now priced out of building homes at this time. And for those who build, especially commercial properties, sweetie, they are forced to pass the cost down to the renters. That is why we're seeing such a high rental rates, especially in the capital. As I said, just few folks are now able to build, but the population continues to grow, which means that we are likely heading towards acute housing shortages and inequality in access to affordable housing. Also, sweetie, the construction industry takes a hit when cost of basic building materials like cement is that high. What you will see is that developers and also potential homeowners, they could postpone or cancel their planned construction projects, leading to a slowdown in the construction industry. And that can have downstream impacts on related sectors of the economy. If you think about, architecture and also engineering areas. So unless something is done about the surging cement prices, I think we'll see much slowing in infrastructure projects and overall economic development.
Right.
Look, this can make inflation worse, right? It can also affect employment in the industry, the construction industry, because companies may cut down on hiring or even lay off workers because they may not be getting much contracts as before. And so let me be quick on this note, right? Let me end it on this note that it is unfortunate that the prices of cement continues to shoot up. But this could also be an opportunity for innovation. Could this encourage the development and also adoption of alternative building materials and alternative construction techniques or other possible sustainable construction practices that may be cost-effective and also environmentally friendly? I think it is worth the debate.
Right. How much is it now? 120? Benjamin, how much is a bag of cement?
I mean, recently it hit 103, then 108. The last I heard, it had gone.
108.
It had gone to 113 thereabouts. Yeah.
Ah, well.
So I don't know whether it hits 120. Okay. I don't know.
I was listening to.
I think it's a kumi-praku moment.
Anyway, let's get into the newspapers and see what they captured. Starting with the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page, on corruption cases, rule of natural justice will prevail, according to the president. Use pulpits to preach peace, says a moderator. NDC 32nd anniversary. Country needs urgent reset, according to Professor Poku Ajiman. And the Black Stars subdue stubborn wild beasts. Let's start from what the president is saying about rule of natural justice prevailing in cases of corruption. And that story is on page 3 of the Daily Graphic. It reads, I'll start from here, actually. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has given an assurance that he will always insist on due process and rule of natural justice in alleged cases of corruption involving state officials and all Ghanaians. He said mere allegations without evidence were not enough to merit condemnation of any accused public official. President Akufo-Addo gave this assurance when he inaugurated the Law House, the Law House building complex for the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice in Accra yesterday. The 10-story structure, which commenced 24 years ago when President Akufo-Addo was Minister of Justice, has facilitated facilities for the Attorney General, suites for his 2 deputies, and a 2-tier basement as car parks. It also has 130 offices, a large conference room, a canteen, 2 libraries, rooms for pupils, interns, and researchers, a kitchenette, and space for social gatherings. Let's hold on reactions for that. Let me quickly run through the Daily Graphic newspaper and then we take reactions at once. Last civilian hospital in besieged Sudan City closed. Those are just some quick headlines on the international front. Professional bodies must stand out and be cautioned, and it's an editorial. Living, dying for food, addressing precarious lives of forest farmers' communities. This story is on page 7 and I want to get into it. Many people living within and around our forest reserves face persecution, eviction and prosecution from a redundant colonial forest policy. This precipitates the urgent need for a national debate on sustainable and equitable alternatives. Quote, "Our directive is that you pull down every structure you have established in the admitted farm section of the forest reserve. Otherwise, we will demolish the structure and prosecute you in court," read a warning letter from the Forest and Wildlife Authorities to Kojo and his families. Quote, "This cottage and farming are all I know. My parents lived here. All my children were born here. Where should I go?" Kojo asked. I think this is a story about an issue going on between someone being evacuated from their residence, which is around a forest farm. Anyway, let's continue. Macron takes huge risk with surprise election. 6 candidates approved to run for president of Iran. When 2 kings meet. This is talking about the Otunfo Tutu and the Gamanche Nitakiteko Chu II and their historic meets over the weekend, which many are calling historic. And I've seen some comments on social media as to why the Gamanche was seated and the Asante king was seated and the Gamanche was standing to greet him. But anyway, we'll get into that when we get there. On the NDC's 32nd anniversary, country needs urgent reset, Professor Opoku-Agyeman is saying. Now, the running mate of the National Democratic Congress, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, says the country needs, the country needs an urgent reset to address current national development issues as the NDC marked its 32nd anniversary with a flag-raising ceremony in Accra. She said the current trend, where one political group came to clean and another came to destroy, had dealt a severe blow to the country's progress. Quote, "The country will have to be reset so that we stop this back and forth. If one group comes to clean and another comes to destroy, how can we make any progress as a country?" Professor Opoku-Agyeman asked at yesterday's ceremony. The event at the party's headquarters was attended by party supporters, National Executive Committee members, and the party's Council of Elders. Well, congratulations to them. I mean, 32 years of being in one of the major political parties in this country is no easy feat. Protect environment to consolidate Green Ghana gains, according to EU Ambassador. On the back page, Black Stars subdues stubborn wild beast. Ghana's Black Stars overcame stubborn Central African Republic with a dramatic 4-3 victory in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers as veteran Jordan Ayew rolled back the years with a hat-trick as Otto-Addo's men survived scary moments to ensure they continue their resurgence with a ghastly second-half performance. Now, I've heard, this morning in the makeup room, they were very passionate about how the game itself was not fun to watch, but we'll take the win like that because this is the second time that the Black Stars are winning something, when it comes to football. But Dr. Wisdom Dogbe, your take on all these stories?
So the congratulations to the Black Stars, but
yeah.
I want to touch on the corruption, the comment by the president about fighting corruption. I heard that He said he's an advocate of due process and the rule of law when it comes to allegations of corruption against government officials.
Yeah.
And I like that he gave that assurance, really. But Ghanaians want to see more in action, right? They want to see action than just words. And if there's an allegation against a state official and some evidence is available, I think it should be investigated instead of these officials getting cleared all of the time. I also read that the president said when it comes to the fight against corruption, he's done better than the former president, John Mahama. I think that Ghanaians are in a better position to judge whether former president John Mahama or President Akufo-Addo has done better when it comes to the fight against corruption, sweetie. I don't think it is just a matter of one saying I've done better or another accusing the other. Corruption is a disease, right? It plagues a nation. And it's those that are suffering, in this case, the ordinary Ghanaians, who can tell us who has done better when it comes to the fight against corruption. And I think that Ghanaians are also in a better position to evaluate, the efforts made by each of these two presidents in implementing and also strengthening anti-corruption laws and regulations, sweetie. What are the anti-corruption legislations that they have introduced? What reforms, right, have they initiated and implemented to enhance transparency and accountability and integrity in government institutions? How are government contracts being awarded, sweetie? We hear about SML, Infraco, and so many other contracts that are awarded, under quite pretty suspicious conditions. All of these are big money contracts, but they are sole sourced, which raises questions about transparency and accountability. And these are measures of corruption. So I'll tell you this, the good people of this country, Ghana, right, can also be the judge because they are able to tell us which of these two presidents has issued or pursued, sound measures, to establish and strengthen institutions that are responsible for fighting corruption. And I'm talking about institutions like the OSP and the EOCO. And when it comes to properly investigating and prosecuting corruption, again, Ghanaians can be the judge and examine the track record of both JM and Akufo-Addo. What is the number and significance of high-profile cases that they have been successful when it comes to pursuing? How impartial and effective was the judicial process? For high-profile corruption suspects, are they properly prosecuted, or almost all the time they are fully cleared of any wrongdoing?
Let me just interject and say that yesterday, government spokesperson Palgrave Wache was speaking with Kojo Brace on Top Story, and he said that these cases that we are listing, Infraco, SML, Senate, Cecilia Dapa, some politicians taking advantage of the scholarship secretariat and all that, there is no evidence to suggest that there's been some wrongdoing that has been neglected. So maybe we are just going on and on about this, but really there's no evidence. And those were the words verbatim from Palgrave Wache Dankwa, the government spokesperson. So if we give them evidence, then they'll prosecute the culpable people. Just for your...
So yeah, I think that, and I appreciate that, right? I think the evidence here is this. You have contracts that are worth millions of dollars, right? And some of these contracts are multi-year contracts. I think the best way to do those contracts is to be very transparent and not source them from an individual or a single company. Let's look again at the level of transparency, right, and accountability that is demonstrated by these administrations. What measures, right, have they put in place, right, to ensure that transparency in these public procurements are actually taken seriously? We need to consider if JM or Nanado has been the most responsive when it comes to public demands for transparency into things like government contracts and public audits. And also how much, right, how much responsibility have they taken for things that have gone south under their watch? I will leave that for Ghanaians to judge.
All right, let me do that. Benjamin?
No thoughts.
No thoughts?
I'm okay.
Okay,
When I get in, I'll share some thoughts.
All right,
about
let me do the Daily Statesman now. The front page, Brunei-Ghana strengthening relations. This is in connection with Shirley Ayoko Botche's bid to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth. 10-story law house commissioned. Yes, we just got into that. We hold you in high esteem. Ashanti chiefs assure Bawumia. Abena Osei-Asare launches election campaign in Etiwa East. Let's do the story. Let's get into the paper now and see which stories pique our interest. Ashanti chiefs express high esteem for Dr. Bawumia. Members of the Ashanti Regional House of Chiefs have praised the Vice President and NPP flag bearer Mahmoud Bawumia for being the first dignitary and non-member of Asanteman to visit them. They said this when Dr. Bawumia and his campaign team visited the Ashanti Regional House of Chiefs in Kumasi yesterday. Dasibra Osei-Bonsu II, the occupant of the silver stool of Asanteman, on behalf of Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, stated, quote, "We hold you in high esteem, and we are delighted to have you. You are the first dignitary and non-member of the Asanteman to visit the Ashanti Regional House of Chiefs and to have our Queen Mothers seated before 9 a.m., Dasibra Osei-Bonsu said. Part of the Vice President's campaign tour to in the Ashanti region. NHIS covers 95% of diseases now. The spokesperson for Dr. Bawumia's campaign team, Dennis Miracles Abuaji, has pointed out that under the current government, 95% of diseases are covered by the National Health Insurance Scheme. He said this when he delivered the records of the NPP administration in the Next Chapter series over the weekend. He emphasized that this coverage had been achieved despite the challenges within the health sector and with the NHIS. Quote, "There are obvious challenges with the NHIS, but the achievements are phenomenal. As we speak, thanks to President Akufo-Addo and the Bawumia administration, about 95% of diseases have been brought under the NHIS. These include kidney diseases, childhood cancers, leukemia, and sickle cell, etc." Okay. His thoughts. Educhum lands Lord's Prempeh College for winning 2024 RoboFest World Championships. Will Ghanaians follow Europe's electoral trend in December 2024? That's an editorial. You can pick up the newspaper and read it for yourself. Nungwa Traditional Council Lords Asabi. Abena Osei-Asare launches election campaign in Etiwa. So these are just some quick headlines. Newmont's Read to Inspire project impact. West African youth demand creation of innovation hubs. On the back page, Bawumia gifts Black Stars 500,000 Ghana cedis. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has generously donated 500,000 Ghana cedis to support the Black Stars preparation for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Now, during his visit to the team's camp, Dr. Bawumia assured the team of the government unwavering support to ensure their qualification for the World Cup. Hence, that's generous donations. That's it for the Daily Statesman. Your thoughts now, Dr. Wisdom Dugbe.
So I think the Black Stars have indeed made Ghanaians proud, right? And excited with yesterday's performance. Of course, there is still opportunity for them to improve, especially at the back, right? But at least the whole team got the job done as they fight for a place in the 2026 World Cup. If I recall correctly, Kudus mentioned that the team is focused on qualifying for the World Cup, regardless of how they perform. But I think we need to commend them on their performance. It wasn't the most spectacular, but they actually delivered, right? But I want to call out Jordan for bagging an impressive hat-trick. Great job to him and to the team. They did well as a team. And of course, congrats to the Central African Republic team. They also did well. They gave us a good fight and even scared many Ghanaians a bit, at least towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
And then I get to my point, your story that you read about the vice president donating money.
Yeah.
All I would say is that I'm glad the vice president and other government officials visited them, the team, and lifted their morals before the game. And I'm sure that many more Ghanaians have been supporting and rooting for them in their own small ways.
And I'm sure that money came at the right time because they need all the support that they can get. Benjamin Akakbo.
The only thing I'm going to add to that, first, congratulations to the Black Stars after that grinding victory they got. I was following the scoreline. I didn't watch the game. I was following the scoreline online because I was doing some work at the time. And then I started following 1-0 then 1-1, 2-1. And I was like, okay, how's this going? But in the end, I checked and we had won, which is good. And I'm also happy about how Jordan is standing in there for the Ayew clan, if you like, and making his family proud. I mean, there are times when I have personally lambasted him over some of his, I don't want to use that word, but I think he's doing it now. I mean, he scored, I believe, against Mali. We won that game by 2-1. He scored a hat-trick yesterday. You must give him his flowers for what he's doing currently, his current form. But I have a question. While I laud the vice president, whenever these sums of money are given, whether it's Mahama or some other person goes out and doles out money, right? It's a good thing. 500,000 cedis to the team ahead of the Central African Republic clash. But my question, when they give out these sums of money, where are they coming from? Their pockets? I don't know whether sometimes we stop to ask, if former President Mahama gives out a sum of money to somebody, where is it coming from? His pocket? Is it funded from somewhere? We ought to ask these questions, because if it's coming from his pocket, okay, we know how our politics is. Is that person going to get it back some way? I don't know. I'm not saying anything. And if it's not, who is providing those sums of money? And what would those people want in return? These are questions we take for granted, but elsewhere, if you're doling out these sums of money, for example, Mackenzie, Jeff Bezos', I think, former wife, right? She inherited about $38 billion after their divorce. She's given out almost, is it close to $1 billion to charities, various charities. Recently, she gave out to some charities supporting children and all of that. We know the source of wealth and where specifically those donations are coming from. In these instances, do we know? So it's a good thing on the face of it. But are we probing to find out this money, where is it from? And if people give out these money and these are used by politicians, what do the people want in return? Questions we never ask. But on the back page, Man U won't sign Tuchel if, and there have been questions raised about Thomas Tuchel joining Manchester United. It appears, according to sources, Dan Ashworth, the sporting director, wants a yes man, not someone who will be challenging too much about the role. And so I guess that's not in the offing. Other names that have come up, Maurizio Pochettino, Thomas Frank, and Roberto De Zerbi. Then there's also Pep Guardiola rejecting Barca return. You know, his contract expires in June 2025, and he was asked whether he would consider going back to Barca. He said that door, that chapter, had been closed. But that's it for sports. Since I just wanted to react there, so I went straight for the sports. Daily Guide in front of the paper. Nana opens law house. I won't skip due process. We've looked at that, so I won't go back to it. Asanteman holds you in high esteem. Mampong handed to Baumia. And digitalized law improves practice. But let me just do this. I am the most impactful VEP, that's according to Baumia. And presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Mahamudu Baumia, has called on the people of Ashanti to vote for him in the December polls. He has been touted as the best vice president that the country has produced. That's per the analysis. He said he should be promoted to be the president. According to him, if someone passes with distinction in his class, the person is given a promotion. So it is time for Ghanaians to promote him to be president. Before I go to the international front, any quick thoughts on this before we move on?
Not really, Ben. I'm just hoping that Ghanaians are assessing him accurately. The economic indicators that they should be looking at. He's the chairman of the Economic Management Committee, right? So there is a lot of data that would give Ghanaians some insight how the vice president has performed. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. Then on the international front, some interesting stories. Israel buoyed by hostage rescue. So there's been a dramatic rescue of 4 Israeli hostages in Gaza amid efforts to try to get Israel and Hamas to agree on a ceasefire. It has raised questions over the impact it would have on reaching a deal as mediated talks show no sign of a breakthrough. And as images of the freed and smiling 3 men and 1 woman dominated TV bulletins and news websites, tens of thousands of people joined a protest across Israel on Saturday, urging the government to strike an agreement with Hamas for the release of those who are still being held. Quotes of Shouts of all of them now were chanted in Tel Aviv. For me, I just want the suffering to end. Aircraft carrying Malawi vice president goes missing. And this one is very interesting because the president has ordered a search and rescue operation after aviation officials were unable to contact the aircraft. It was supposed to land at the Mzuzu International Airport in the country's north just after 10 o'clock local time. And the Malawian or the Malawi vice president's name, Saulos Chilima, and 9 others, they have just gone off the radar, off the charts, missing. And that's a very troubling one. I don't know whether you have any reactions before I go into the New Finder newspaper.
And let's keep fingers crossed and pray that the VP of Malawi gets found safely. Ben, when it comes to the situation in the Middle East, you just read that story, right? Of course, we all want to see the suffering in Gaza and Rafah come to an end. And I think that it is a welcoming news to hear that the UN Security Council has adopted a resolution that was put forward by the United States for permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of all hostages. And I think it is a powerful message by the UN Security Council members who voted in support of this to end this war. And if I recall, Hamas had indicated that they would accept similar ceasefire proposals in the past, but they didn't. And Israel has also indicated that it is an acceptable proposal as well. So let's keep fingers crossed that both parties will accept this ceasefire proposal now and end the carnage in the peninsula and get the hostages back to their families. I also want to touch on the Benny Gantz resignation, right? I think it's quite unfortunate, but I don't know if it is a game changer or it's a showstopper to achieve peace in this war. But if you think about it, right, he has a good point that Prime Minister Netanyahu should provide some more clarity in terms of strategy, beyond just saying that they want to eliminate Hamas. What is next after the mission is accomplished? And then I was more concerned about escalating tensions in the region generally, right? Especially between, even if you think about Israel and also Iran. Yeah. I think that these efforts, including the proposed ceasefire, should be made to de-escalate tensions in the region to ensure stability and also promote peaceful coexistence. And when it comes to Iran, right, their role, I think it seems to me that neither Israel nor Iran will want a full-scale war. Though I know that people like the Ayatollah will want Iran to demonstrate some military capabilities as a show of strength, right? And I think that is the reason why they launched a lot of rockets towards Israel some few weeks back. But if neither country actually wants a war, then it's essential that they engage in diplomatic dialogue and find a common ground to address their differences in the region. Again, it is good to hear about the ceasefire because I think that rising tensions in the Middle East, that can really create dangerous repercussions for the region at large. Even the humanitarian crisis created so far in this conflict with Hamas, Ben, with potential for more devastation if Israel continues a full-scale assault on places like Rafah, I think this is a crisis that is already overwhelming the region. So a continuous fighting, I think, will further worsen the humanitarian consequences in the whole region. So I think this is good news to hear about the ceasefire proposal that was adopted today.
All right, let's get into the New Finder newspaper now. World Cup hopes alive as Black Stars beat Central African Republic in 7-goal thriller. New Finder newspaper, if you're going to use 7 and goal and likely put a hyphen in there, you shouldn't say goals. It doesn't work like that. Nana Addo Lords advanced digitization in new law house. NHIA to implement mandatory health insurance for all visitors to Ghana. I think I like the drive of the Dr. Da Costa Abuaje and how he is putting some of these things forward. I hope we get the right funding to actualize all of them and ease the burden of most of Ghanaians who need to benefit from health insurance. But I'll do 2 stories. FRSP supplies highly subsidized 130,000 a day-old chicks to poultry farmers in Ashanti. And then I'll do something that I find very troubling. But starting here, Selected commercial anchor poultry farmers in the Ashanti region have received about 130,000 day-old chicks, marking the first phase of the poultry intensification scheme under the West Africa Food System Resilience Program. This initiative, funded by the World Bank and ECOWAS, aims to revamp the poultry industry in Ghana and reduce the country's food deficit. The program provides input credit to beneficiaries, including approximately 160,000 day-old chicks, 180,000 kilograms of feed, and necessary vaccines. Additionally, farmers will receive training in best modern practices and climate-smart technologies within the poultry industry. And God knows, the poultry industry is one of where we actually do need a lot of help. The cost of feed is one, and the poultry industry has dwindled beyond imagination. From the 90s and where we were, I always reference Akufo-Addo because he contested as a politician at some point. But the Dako farms and what happened and how we got here, and if you look at the number of imports we bring in when it comes to poultry, now we're even getting poultry from Brazil. Chicks and all of that from Brazil, meat, other places. Look at the distance. So how practical is it if we can have a market, niche market here to satisfy? And look at how much the many hundreds of millions we spend importing these products every year. No brainer. But just to add the story and take your reactions, and I say this on the back of the Amenfi East parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party and what he said recently. I'll keep talking about it. Now, there's a response from the military also talking about the fact that don't dare, don't you even try it. But I find it worrying that this is said, and he also intimates that there's a WhatsApp platform, the regional minister is there, and all that. So if anything, put a message there and we'll see and react. I don't know, but I'm saying that it doesn't matter whose ox is God. Deal with people like this who say such absurdities, whichever side of the political spectrum they are on. And after what he said, this is what has happened. Suspected illegal miners allegedly assault military officer at Wassa Achimpim. And a military officer identified as Timothy Ajakozi, believed to be attached to the Takwa Aboso military quarters in the Takwa Nswaim municipality, has allegedly been assaulted by suspected illegal miners at Wassa Achimpim in the Wassa East district of the Western region. The incident, residents said, happened when the soldier visited an illegal. Now, note, this parliamentary candidate, Ernest, I believe is his name, has been saying that he was referring to legal miners in his explainer. But guess what? When the soldier visited an illegal mining, Galamsey, site with 3 of his colleagues for reasons yet unknown, they said the suspected illegal miners inflicted cutlass wounds on the head and arms of the soldier after they chased him from the site and pounced on him at a fuel station at Wassa Achimpim. The military officer was chased by the suspected illegal miners from the site. They chased him to a fuel filling station at Wassa Achimpim, where he finally got tired and could not run further. So the suspects got hold of him and butchered him in the head. He, in the process, used his hands to block any strike to prevent further injuries on his head. And as a result, he sustained serious degrees of injury on his hands, the residents stated. Years ago, we had someone say, look for this journalist who has put out an expose and beat him up. The journalist was killed. Now, we have a parliamentary candidate say this. And right in the aftermath, a military officer has faced this. Ghana 4, over to you. And then you would have some characters shooting messages when you say this, writing all sorts of, but in the end, it's your data. You can do what you want with it. Economy Times, Bank of Ghana incurs 2.4 billion Ghana cedi cost on G40 and 2023, and over 500,000 businesses to be deleted from companies registered by June ending. That story, all of them in the Economy Times. In less than a minute, Wisdom, quick reactions, and we're gone.
Ben, this is a barbaric story that you read about the illegal mining and also that attack. We need to start by continuing to strengthen the law, right, and its enforcement. Basically, I think we need to increase penalties and sanctions for those engaged in illegal mining activities, including both mining businesses and also individuals involved in the entire supply chain. And folks that take the law into their hands like this, we don't live in a lawless society, right? There are laws And when these things happen, my hope and expectation is that these people will be found and they will face the full rigors of the law.
Thank you, Wisdom, for having joined the conversation. Sweetie, curtains.
Thank you.
It's misleading. That's the part that upsets me. The information he was given, this Amenfi is member of parliament. He said that it is not a law anymore, that soldiers have the right to evade your camp and ask you to get out. Why would you want to instigate people and put their lives at risk? But that's just...
Well, I hope with this happening, this soldier that has been assaulted, I hope he's happy now.
The military statement is very clear and
direct. It is test.
It's a warning.
And you see, yesterday I was sharing with some colleagues that you don't want to do this because the military, they are not the police. Yes, you cite, but the military, their mandate and how they operate is not like the police. Yeah. I'm not defending what happened in Ashaiman, but you see their response, unjustified. We spoke about it. But when you trigger the military, their response is very different. What would even come to your mind? For someone who wants to be a parliamentary candidate, who would be on security platforms in our country to say this, I don't know. But when you say these things, some people, we've become so polarized as a country that I think a lot of people are failing to think. Like I just cited about these sums of money that politicians, NDC, NPP and others are doling out. Does anyone stop to ask, how do they get this money? This is how we end the newspaper review. This segment is always brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering you the same as always. Take advantage. If you're a man, receive prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening, gratis for free. You can reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Chronomabwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takra DNIG State, Tema, Community 22, there's Techiman Hanswa, and there's Siama and Zima. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. You can bet that we're going to be showing you scenes from yesterday's thriller in Ghana as we beat the Central African Republic. Sports is up next.
Time for sports on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. The Black Stars are now at the top of Group I after securing a crucial win against the Central African Republic in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Jordan Ayew, who returned to the starting lineup, delivered a stellar performance with a hat-trick, ensuring a 4-3 triumph for Ghana. Daniel Corantin watched the game at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium and reports.
Even before the warm-up, Jordan Ayew took a quick stroll through the Baba Yara Stadium pitch to soak in the atmosphere on the occasion of his 100th cap for Ghana. He probably had a feeling he was going to be the star of the show in the next few hours that proceeded. After an impressive win away in Bamako, which had breathed life back into Ghana's FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign, the Black Stars had an opportunity to go top of the group with a win against the Central African Republic. Morale was high and the stage was set for what will go down as one of the most dramatic nights at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. 3 minutes in, penalty to Ghana. A foul on Fatah Isahaku meant Jordan Ayew had the opportunity to put Ghana ahead from the spot.
Here goes Ayew, and it's a solid penalty into the bottom right-hand corner. Ghana 1, Central African Republic 0.
1-0 Ghana and the perfect start. Ghana head coach Akufo-Addo had cautioned his side in the pre-match press conference about the danger Central African Republic posed in transition. And that was evident in the equalizer just 6 minutes later.
Drop kindly, and it's a goal. Would you believe it?
Tension gripped the stadium and doubt began surfacing. Just when it looked like Ghana would see the draw into the halftime break, it got worse.
Louis Mafuta again.
Mafuta again with a dagger to Ghanaian hearts. For the second successive game, Ghana would go into the break a goal down and require a comeback. But the thing is, we are Ghana, and the spirit of the Baba Yara Sports Stadium will just not allow the Black Stars to lose. 3 goals in 9 minutes turned the game around. First, Jordan Ayew, then Fatah Isahaku, and then Jordan Ayew again. His second hat-trick for Ghana 10 years after scoring his first. Mafuta attempted to spoil the party late on, but it wouldn't be as Ghana held on for a 4-3 win. A win which left Akufo-Addo reeling over his side's show of character.
And this is one thing that I think we have to mention, the positive spirit, despite being behind away in Mali, and now here again, to come back, to be mentally strong, to come back.
For the hat-trick hero Jordan Ayew, his message was simple: hard work does pay.
I'm a person, I never give up. I work hard and I believe in my qualities, I believe in myself. And I'm believe in what I do day in, day out. And you know, one day I'll be, how am I going to put it together? One day it will pay. And at the minute is for some couple of games now, it's been paying off.
A week ago, Ghana's chances of qualifying for her 5th FIFA World Cup looked slim. But after back-to-back wins against Mali and the Central African Republic, USA, Mexico and Canada looks promising again. From the Baba Yara Sports Stadium in Kumasi, for Joy Sports, I am Daniel Kranting.
Now, having defeated Mali and the Central African Republic, the Black Stars have now won back-to-back matches for the first time in 9 months. Now, Ghana FA President Keto Kreku expressed gratitude to the players for their output.
I guess the sound from outside these premises tells all of us the enormity and the importance of this victory to Ghanaians. You guys have fought a good fight. You gave it your all, and you touched the hearts and homes and souls of 30 million plus Ghanaians today. We don't have too much to say, but to say how grateful we are for the fight. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for this victory. It is a very good one. Let's take the positives, all the positives that will come out of this game. Salis, be careful. Why are you intimidating me? All right, so just to say thank you. Thank you, Akpe. Thank you.
Now, several qualifiers were played on the continent, and perhaps the most shocking result was Nigeria's defeat to Benin. The Cheetahs came from behind to beat the Super Eagles 2-1, leaving them in 5th place in Group C. Highlights for you.
A dangerous touch up front just yet. You can see there's movement. Well, it's an interesting run there by Braido Saï, but the Fenerbahce man being watched very closely by that Benin defence. Every defender very well rehearsed in what they're trying to do. Until now, Chukwueze making a bit of space for himself. Puts it on his right foot. There's the ball. It's been pulled back. Anybody there? Oh, what a shot. What a goal. That is absolutely pure class from Onyedika. Brilliant goal. Gave himself a bit of space. Delivered a brilliant shot that flew. Nigeria take the lead. And how about that for a strike? There was so much traffic around him, but he still managed to find the boulevard to hit a powerful right-footed shot into the corner. Chukwueze making a bit of space, squares the ball into the path of Onyedika, the Club Brugge man, with that stunning shot. In it goes. Nigeria take the lead. And it all comes down to the man who just drives into the corner, despite the fact that you saw Doku putting a little bit of pressure on him. Mooney. Good chance, great opportunity. How about that? There's your goal. Benin have just split open the defence. And well, he's got a bit of an injury, it looks like, Jodel Josu. But how about that? He scores the equaliser. That was fantastic. But I don't think he'll be able to continue. He's got a hamstring injury, I think. Well, just look at this. That was the touch there coming from Calvin. A reckless attempt to clear the ball. And you can see that Jodel Josu races onto it. Wonderful. Opens up his right foot into the corner to beat Nwabali. Limps away with a muscle injury, it appears. Great hassling as well. And that will be his 10th goal in 62 matches. Does he get startled? And he does find Doku into the midfield. Picked up by Tijani. And over to the other side. Good work from Tosin as well. Calming things down. 3 minutes of added time, as you can see. Nigeria being holding Benin. Scored an equaliser. That's nicely done. Picked up here and taken forward. Mumini down into the penalty box. Great challenge there. Not just of the brass instruments they're playing, but they're having fun and enjoying themselves in a big way. Junior Oletan will deliver from the right side. Front post, the touch, oh, it's banged in. Look at that for a goal. Steve Mooney crashes it in. A strike that is absolutely smashing into the back of the net for Benin, who take the lead in added time of the first half. Wow. How about that for Benin? A little touch there, but the strike was just sumptuous. 17th goal there for Mooney.
That's your sports on the AM show. My name is Harun Mubarak. The show continues right after this.
Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for our big stories. And we contemplate this morning. Former President Mahama, current President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who has the edge when it comes to the fight against corruption? Who has done better? Yesterday, the president resurrected that one more time when he was inaugurating the Law House, or at least spoke at that event. We'll be contemplating that, but we want to start with our guest on the Law House itself, what it signifies, what this will do, not just for legal education and the justicial system in Ghana, but what it represents on a much broader perspective, or in a much broader perspective. Joining us for that conversation, we have none other than, interestingly, the Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Tua-Yeboah. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
It's been a while. I mean, since the last time, I'll not mention where, but we've not seen each other in a while. It's really good having you join the conversation this morning.
Yes, my brother. Maybe I'll let others know you were my classmate at the early program, and I enjoyed it in class. So maybe I have to let the cat out of the bag.
I was trying to avoid that, but you've already done that anyway. We also have Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. He joins the conversation as well. Dr. Kwapong, Osai Kwapong, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you too.
All right. Let's start with the significance of this recent edifice that was inaugurated yesterday. All the way it goes back over a decade, almost 2 decades in the making. I'll start with you, Mr. Tua-Yeboah. What is your reflection on the Law House and what it signifies for Ghana?
All right, thank you very much, my brother. Let me first and foremost commend His Excellency the President, the government, and the people of Ghana for making available to the Office of Attorney General the taxpayers' money for the construction of this. edifice. I think all of us have contributed, and as was said yesterday, this project started the early part of 2000. And let me also commend all successive attorney generals and all successive presidents for also showing the commitment to have this edifice come to being. Now, if you look at our Constitution, Article 88, it talks about the Attorney General and his function. And if I will not sound as if I just want people to know more about our office, that is the only office created under the Constitution that if the president does not even want to appoint any minister, the Constitution has made it imperative for the president to appoint an Attorney General who also be the Minister of Justice. And so the Office of Attorney General houses the principal legal advisor, and as we know, all the processes that we have in the country bordering on legality, it is the duty of the AG and his officers to advise the government. So it is in right order for such an edifice to be built for the Office of Attorney General so that we can enhance our work as an office. Now, Ghana, when it comes to our standing in the Community of Nations, when it comes to democracy, Ghana stands very tall. So this edifice is a testament of Ghana's commitment to strengthen legal architecture, which eventually will lead to deepening the rule of law. And so for the starters, I may want to say that it's going to enhance the work of our officers in the ministry. I hope you've been to our ministry before, and at the point in time, some of our attorneys were using containers as their offices. People may want to work, but need to work in a very good environment. With this new office, we can accommodate all the attorneys, and God willing, even recruit more attorneys to enhance the work of the ministry.
Now, in terms of legal and judicial matters, the president also lauded the fact that this was a digital edifice, if you like. In terms of the digital drive, lawyers and litigants, quoting him, can now file their documents online, access case information, and receive updates on their cases in real time. And he talks about how this is a major leap forward in making justice more accessible and efficient for all Ghanaians. Walk us through how exactly this will happen. We know about the construct of our legal system and how people feel some cases take too long in court and all of that. How is the Law House going to aid in facilitating all of this?
Yes, I think the president made a general statement regarding both the judiciary and the Office of Attorney General.
Right.
When it comes to the filing of court processes, as we know, some parts in Accra and other parts of the country now we do e-filing, a system where you don't have to go and file the hard copy. Yeah. You can just sit in your office and file processes. A system where you can sit in your office as a lawyer and you'll be served with a court process. Coming to the Office of Attorney General, we also do a lot of legal work for the government. Sometimes instant legal actions, at times we defend. We also prosecute. And so this edifice and the idea to digitalize that office, it will mean that it's going to enhance our work. We can sit in our offices, file processes before the court, and so the system where you go to court and the case is that you've not filed it, or you filed it and someone has not received the process. If you're able to go through all these processes, it will mean that you sit in your office at the Attorney General's office, file a process, and if, for example, I'm using one law chamber, story as law will have to be served, they will just be in the office and also have to get the process served. So that agenda to digitalize the judicial process and the legal process effectively will also enhance transparency to speed up hearing of the matters and the issue you spoke about, delays. When we go to a courtroom, we realize that most judges in Ghana use longhand in recording their proceedings. But if you begin to, which already is started, we begin to have all these courts in Ghana digitalized, then it will actually help in speeding up the hearing of cases.
Please hold for me, Mr. Chiayebua. Let me also bring in Dr. John Osai Kwapong. Two-pronged question. One, what are the real benefits you see that this law house will deliver to Ghana as a whole? And also from the standpoint of the symbolism, what do you see? After 2 decades, this has finally come to fruition. What's your take?
Thank you very much. So for me, any steps that can be taken to make the access to justice or any of the services that are rendered by the Office of the Attorney General, the Ministry of Justice, or even our courts is always a step in the right direction. And so that for me is what makes this of real benefit to everyday Ghanaians. If you also think about the different offices, as per my reading, what will be contained in this law house, it also makes it very sort of this idea of a one-stop shop, right? That instead of depending on what lawyers, attorneys, citizens are trying to get, right? That you can sort of access any of those services from one central location. So again, it eases hopefully one's access to all the different things that one may want from the AG's office or from the Ministry of Justice or from some of the courts that will be the courthouses that will be housed in there. And then for me, even the working spaces, right, that those who are part of the AG's office or the Ministry of Justice, even as the Deputy AG was saying that some have had to work in quote-unquote containers. You'll be amazed that the physical space that a worker inhabits can even inhibit his or her productivity and efficiency. So all of this, for me, becomes very important and offers good benefits to the citizens of Ghana. I mean, if you think about the symbolism of it, right? I mean, this is a profound statement. I mean, if you look at the nature of the building with a big symbol on it that says the law house, that one can look at it and say, I mean, in principle, we do stand for justice, and this is embodied in even this kind of imposing architecture. I always say that when you get to a place like Washington, D.C., and you see the architecture of the different government agencies, as well as the congressional building, if you look at the courts, they are imposing, and for me, it sort of communicates that message of the things that are important, the things that the country stands for. And so I'm just hoping that we live that symbol of we embody, law and justice in a country like Ghana.
Dr. Osaikopon, you talked about productivity and efficiency. I'm just trying to understand, are you saying that this would in any way improve or facilitate justice delivery, particularly in the dispensation of our judicial systems in the country?
Yes. Sometimes, let me tell you a personal story. So years ago, for example, I visited a friend who was working at a mental health facility in Accra, right? And one of the things he talks about it is like, look at the space in which I work and I have to see patients and think about how that even affects my everyday, productivity, right? And so such for me, if I think back to that story and compare it to this ultra-modern facility with all of the bells and whistles that comes with it, you can think about how it facilitates the work that can be done. I mean, the improved technology. The Deputy AG mentioned all the digital access to court records, being able to access cases in real time, etc., etc. That, again, for me, does improve efficiency and productivity.
Okay, please hold for me. Let me go back to the Deputy Attorney General. I'm curious about the estimated total, if you may. How much did it cost us to put up this edifice? I mean, very laudable, but how much did it cost the country?
I'll be able to tell you offhand how much the edifice cost, but I know as a fact that for the last 5, 6, 7 years, every year, Parliament has making provision for the funding of this edifice. But I'll be able to get you exactly how much it has cost us so far, perhaps when you get back to me within the day or another time. Yes.
Okay, Benjamin.
Well, interesting thoughts there. So by and large, as we move away from the conversation about the law house, in the immediate term, Alfred Tiayeboa, what are some of the benefits, I mean, we stand to accrue from this building that now has been inaugurated between now and election 2024? How is it going to be maximized in terms of its use?
Yes. From now up to election 2024, the attorneys or the staff of the ministry will move into this building. We'll start working from there. When it comes to the review of dockets, whether we are to give legal advice, whether to review a criminal docket or any other thing, with this edifice and with the space created, the attorneys will have that kind of peace of mind, we have that kind of congenial environment, review dockets and come out with good opinion. I'm not saying that we are not doing it now because we are in this edifice, we are in the old building, no. But as Dr. Akufo said, when it comes to the work environment and how you see it, and definitely if you are in a very good work environment, it plays on your mindset and how you're going to also take certain decisions. So we expect that from now to December, what we are supposed to do as attorneys, we'll continue to do it. You know, a lot of people access our office, especially when it comes to criminal matters. People send a lot of petitions. And when petitions are sent, they go through a lot of process before we're even able to come out with an opinion, whether to prosecute or not to prosecute. And those who access it, sometimes they are even the accused persons, sometimes even complainants. But because of the numbers that we have, it sometimes takes a lot of time to go through a process to get advice rendered. But with this edifice, and if God will be able to get more attorneys, it will mean that a lot of hands will be at play and we can work on cases expeditiously so that whether accused persons or complainants can get to know what their fate should be when it comes to prosecution of matters in court.
Before you take leave of us, just a bit of a curiosity. Yesterday, the president also touched on corruption. He said that the former president had called him the chief clearing agent and that for him, he would always stick to due process. How is the law house, if I may, going to assist the fight against corruption, if any?
Yes. The law house also houses the Minister of Justice, as you know. And so when it comes to the administration of justice, we play a key role. And due process actually also is about justice. And as the president said, when it comes to the fight against corruption, you cannot just pick someone from his home and then deal with him the way that you want to deal with him because the person is alleged to be corrupt. If a person is alleged to be corrupt, the person has to go through the process of investigation. After the person has been investigated and a docket is built, then the AG's office is given that docket to review. Now we have the OSP that's dealing with corruption-related matters. But aside from those matters, there are other cases of stealing of public funds, etc., etc. So when it comes to this corruption fight, I agree with Mr. President. It is not as if you can do whatever that you want because you want to fight it, step all processes and then move on. We advise the government, we advise the president, and so as and when issues come up and we need to research and advise him properly as to the way to take, definitely this one is going to help us. But corruption fight, my brother, if I'm to tell you, it is a collective fight. I've met people who sometimes ask me, so DAG, why is it that case have been in court, you're having this case and it has taken you X amount of years? I tell the person, you cannot sidestep due process. If you take an accused person to fight for his right when it comes to criminal defense for 3-4 years and the law permits it, we cannot stop the process. So we must all also agree that in the fight against corruption, we cannot ignore due process. And that's the point the President made yesterday.
Well, Mr. Tiayeboa, we're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning. And before you go, I would just like to add, Mr. President was lauding the Attorney General, and that also, I believe, stretches to you and the other Deputy AG. We salute all of you for the work you've done in making this law house materialize. So congratulations to you as well.
Thank you very much, my brother.
And that is the Deputy Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Tua Yeboah. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on this for Dr. Osai-Kwapong before we proceed with the main conversation. But we're also focusing on the corruption fight and what both parties have been saying. Now, President Akufo-Addo is saying that he has done better in the fight against corruption compared to former President Mahama. Let's start from there with you, Dr. Osai-Kwapong. Your take based on what you heard Mr. President say yesterday and the record of this administration, which is in the twilight of its period. But before we take your reaction, let's actually listen to what Mr. President said.
Despite the ugly noises, the fight against corruption.
This change will also see the most far-reaching and detailed investigation of the many allegations of corruption and scandals leveled against public officials and their families and friends. This change will help to abort this administration's plan to foist the pliant vice president on us, to cover up for them, and thereby escape the searing scrutiny of accountability. But as I have stated, this hot spotlight of accountability is reserved not only for appointees of this administration, it will also be available to sanctioned persons in my own administration who engage in similar conduct. The same anti-corruption strategies and instruments I shall deploy to measure and punish the NPP government appointees will also be applicable to my own appointees. In short, in Ghanaian parlance, Aba Yadibo Techino, Yadibebo Banso. My dear youth, the best of Ghana is yet to come, and I have hope for the future. Particularly as I return to the presidency as the experienced, visionary, and decisive leader ready to build the Ghana we want together with you. The Electoral Commission has decided to conduct a mop-up voter registration exercise between 1st August to 3rd August, realizing that many could not participate in the just completed limited registration exercise. I still do not understand why the Electoral Commission in cahoots with government insists it will not bring the voters' registration centers to the doorstep of the people as much as possible in order that all of you can have the opportunity to.
Despite the ugly noises, the fight against corruption has been the cornerstone of my administration. With a clear understanding that corruption thrives in an atmosphere conducive to its concealment, and that access to information is a vital tool in the fight against corruption. My government in its first term ensured the passage of the Right to Information Act, 2019 Act 989, in order to give true meaning and effect to Article 21, Clauses 1F of the Constitution. The Act, which successive governments have failed to pass, sees to the implementation of the constitutional right to information held by a public institution to foster a culture of transparency and accountability in public affairs, subject to exemptions, necessary and consistent with the protection of the public interest in a democratic society. The Act is now being fully implemented, with the governing board chaired by an experienced and respected retired High Court judge. The Ministry of Information has trained information officers in various ministries, departments, and agencies of government to support the full application of the law. Administratively, a series of other far-reaching measures have been undertaken by my government to help in the fight against corruption. A memorandum of understanding on information exchange and collaboration in combating corruption and crime in general has been signed by SRAJ, IOCO, Parliament, the Office of the Attorney General, the Audit Service, the Police Service, the Financial Intelligence Center, the Narcotics Control Commission, the Internal Audit Agency, the National Investigations Bureau, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor to this end. The use of technology has been pivotal in our efforts to combat corruption. We have introduced digital platforms for public procurement processes, reducing human intervention and minimizing the opportunities for corrupt practices. These platforms have increased transparency, efficiency, and competitiveness in public procurement, ensuring that public resources are judicially used for the benefit of all Ghanaians. Before I conclude, Madam Chief Justice, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we are all aware of the statement by the former president and perennial NDC presidential candidate, John Dramani Mahama, stigmatizing me as a clearing agent, because for him, mere allegation without more is enough to merit condemnation of an accused public official, especially one of my administration. For my part, and let me state it again for the record, I will not set aside due process and the rules of natural justice on the altar of the fight against corruption, no matter how much opprobrium this position incurs for me.
Well, you heard the former president lampooning the current president and the current president giving response to the former president. So my question stands, Dr. Osai-Kwapong. When you look at the trajectory and what the president said vis-a-vis what the former president said, what is your reading of the matter? You would have to unmute. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. So, you know, respectfully, I think that position is also what has hurt the president and on the issue of corruption. I've said this on this platform. I've said it in other places that I agree in principle with the president when he said this due process issue. He's framed it differently before, where he says, look, not until you find yourself on the wrong side of the law, or at least you find yourself being accused of having broken the laws, you would not have a deep appreciation for the rule of law and natural justice. It's a position he holds very strictly and he holds very rigidly. And I understand that to an extent, in the sense that you want, whenever any allegations are leveled against any individual, whether a public official, whether a regular citizen, you want to make sure that due process, you enjoy due process, right? So the right to a free trial, the presumption of innocence, etc., etc. I understand all of that. And so I agree in principle with the president when he says the fact that allegations of corruption has been leveled against someone in my administration, that it becomes the basis for which you deny that accused person due process and natural justice. But what has hurt the president, in my opinion, is that the issue of corruption is also not something that you always want to subject to strict legal proof. That is because it also has political dimensions and political implications, right? And so it is that non-legal approach to dealing with corruption that I believe has hurt the president, in the sense that there are ways in which you can also deal with allegations of corruption, right? So, for example, if you adopt an approach of zero tolerance for corruption, which means that you say in no uncertain terms to people who serve in your administration is, look, I know you are good people. I know that, quote unquote, you would not engage in, any acts that would tarnish my administration. However, you do know that these are the things that allegations can do. It can taint an administration. It can change how people view an administration. It can undermine positive perceptions, all of those things. So, if should any of these issues ever emerge, for example, I'll ask you to step aside until, quote unquote, the due process takes its place. And when the due process at the end of the day says you're good, you've not been engaged in anything untoward, you can come back and become part of my administration. For me, I think some of those things would have also helped change how citizens began to perceive this administration on the issue of corruption. I mean, Benjamin, think about it, right? In 2017 Afrobarometer, as many as 60% of respondents gave this administration positive ratings when it came to the fight against corruption. In the most recent Afrobarometer in 2022, only 14% gave the administration high marks for fighting corruption. And for me, that is where I believe that this position of it's all about due process, respectfully, has hit this administration, that if you always stick to this rigid, it's all about the law, that you forget to also deal with how perceptions can also even undermine this fight. We've talked about the legal test versus the appearance test on your show, right? So yes, you would always pass the legal test, but it is also that sort of not paying enough attention to the appearance test that has ended up fueling a lot of the perceptions of corruption about this administration. Not, keeping in mind that there's been stories, there's been allegations, there's been issues that have that have emerged, and so for me, that is where I respectfully have some disagreement with the president in terms of this rigid. It's all about due process. You cannot fight corruption and change the perceptions of the general public without paying attention also to the political implications and public perceptions of some of these issues.
All right, let's bring into the conversation now Professor Jampo, and he's a political scientist and lecturer at University of Ghana. Prof, it's good to have you with us. Now, the former president is saying that the current president is a clearing agent, and President Akufo-Addo is saying that the fight against corruption takes due process. Let's do a comparative analysis between these two. Who has demonstrated a will to fight corruption in terms of structural change, legislative reforms, even public perception? Which of these former president, current president has demonstrated a will to actually fight corruption?
But should there be a discussion about this? Are we not in Ghana? Don't we know, don't we see what is going on? I think, for me, there is no point in wasting time talking about this. Look, President Akufo-Addo was given a speech to go and read. And you do not expect speech writers to be fair in their assessment of some of these things. And so they wrote a flowery speech that was read by the president. And it's as simple as that. Where did the president present this speech? I'm told he presented it at a forum of the Ghana Bar Association. And I'm thinking, you see, it is only at
He presented it while inaugurating the Law House yesterday.
Sorry, and it was participants essentially were lawyers. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Another correction, I am not a lawyer. I'm a student of law. I'm not a lawyer. Thank you.
No, I'm saying the participants at the event were essentially lawyers.
Okay.
Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. So these lawyers who belong to the Ghana Bar Association, in my view, you see, president, the writer of the speech knew the forum that the president was going to be talking. And so he chose to be flowery. But in my view, these lawyers who belong to the Ghana Bar Association over the years, for the past 7 years, have been sycophantic and have been cowed into submission and by morbid fear of the president. And so the president is aware that he could go say some of these things at such forum and they may even applaud. But I tell you, the president wouldn't have dared saying some of these things at a forum of academics. I was there when he tried to insinuate a possible renaming of the University of Ghana after TB Dankwa. And there, in his presence, he saw the reaction. He said, no way. But you were expecting that he was going to, and he knew the forum on which he was going to be speaking, and that these guys have offered sycophantic support to his regime for the past 7 years without seeing anything wrong that he's done. And so that's how come he said what he said. But this is a man who is talking about due process, but who also offered an a clearance of Cecilia Dapa even long before the woman was going to be subjected to the due processes that he is talking about. He had offered a certain clearance to the woman, knowing very well that given the powers that the 1992 Constitution confers on the executive president, once he made that open remark or open statement clearing that the woman, it was going to be difficult for all the other agencies of the state that were investigating her to do things or to come out with findings that would go contrary to what he has said. He knew it. And that's how come the price case would continue to hang and nothing is being done. Look, when he appointed Martin Amidu as the special prosecutor, I was among the first people, I was among the first to praise him because we knew what Martin Amidu was standing for. Okay, and so we're all excited. He's not a man who flip-flops or who is not committed to what he sets out to do. But even though we created the office of the special prosecutor, we also went out of our way to frustrate that office such that it will be efficient in fighting corruption. In the end, how did Martin Amidu describe Akufo-Addo? The mother serpent of all corruption. And long before Martin Amidu had spoken, about 2 years before Martin Amidu had spoken, my own teacher, Professor Emmanuel Jimapu, had said, I think on your network or somewhere else, I heard him, that as for President Akufo-Addo, his track record in the fight against corruption is in tatters. He said it long ago. Okay, so go and look at the statistics. How are we doing in terms of corruption perception index? How are we doing? We are at an all-time low in his administration. I heard Dr. Osei, is it Dr. Kwapon talking
Osai Kwapon.
Osai Kwapon talking about CDD Afro-Barometer state. And look at the statistics there. And so it will be, I don't know, power has got its own way of blindfolding people to reality. So when people are in power, they don't see what is real. Tell President Akufo-Addo that I'm telling him that he should be real. He should come and speak to Ghanaians before forming that opinion about his own record in the fight against corruption. I think he's not done well in the fight against corruption. The history of the Republic would always have him as a worst president in terms of virtually everything.
So Professor Jampo, are you saying...
Don't tell me that you are giving more funding to anti-corruption agencies. To do what? We are told that SRAT, for instance, has had its funding increased under this particular administration. And it's a good thing, but you do not increase their funding while at the same time doing things that would make the fight against corruption very difficult. And I think that I was just watching some public accounts committee hearing, and we are told of several contracts that have been awarded to either non-existent bodies or contracts that have been awarded and
Professor Jampo, I have to interject at this point. Are you saying that the President Akufo-Addo, between the two, I mean, we are doing a comparative analysis. Are you saying that he has the least demonstrated will to fight corruption compared to former President John Dramani Mahama? You haven't said anything about the former president.
Because I know that you are discerning Ghanaian and you can think and you can know and appreciate what I'm driving at. There is no comparison. It's light and day. Can't you see? Why do you want me to compare light and a day? Light is light, day is day.
Professor Jampo, we had instances of corruption under former President Mahama. Let me just cite a few for you. I want us, if we're going to go into this, I want us to do it properly so that at least we can reflect. No, hold for me. Hold for me. Right, just hold for me. I want to jog your memory, just so we can have a proper comparative. I'm not saying anything. You read between the lines. We had, for example, the bus branding scandal at the Metro Mass Transit. 3.6 million Ghana cedis involved. It was the Smarties deal. And government had been overbilled by 1.9 million Ghana cedis. It led, though, if you want to look to the extent of it, to the Minister of Transport, then, Jifativo, being compelled to resign. And she did. We can go back to the Burkinabe businessman, Kanazwe, I remember, the Ford Explorer Expedition gift scandal. Though it had been added to the pool, that was no justification. $60,000 worth. Then there's the Jida scandal. Our very own Manasseh Azuria winning all the way in 2013 and what he unearthed. There was the SADA scandal as well, which was supposed to be Ghana's Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, and it showed that some 32+ million, which had been paid to plant 5 million trees, and this is why I'm so concerned about some of the tree planting now. They could only account for 700,000 trees. We can talk about the NSS situation in 2014, where officials of what was then the Bureau of National Investigation, now the NIB, uncovered a 7.9 million Ghana cedi rot at the NSS. Some judicial corruption, which can be tied to them as well, because there are three arms of government. And you could talk about the brochure gaffe. I'll end there for the NDC. Ghana's 59th Independence Day celebration at the Black Star Square with innumerable errors, grammatical mistakes, and all of that. We spoke about it, but people had been paid for this work. When it comes to Nana-Addo, this administration, we can start looking, for example, at the 1.22 billion Ghana Card project and some issues to do with it. We can look at the Bost contaminated fuel saga, 15 million lost to Ghana. The claim about $100,000 being paid, the cash for seat saga, Maslock issues. We can look at the procurement breaches. I mean, the PPA boss, Ejenim Boateng Ejay, among others. The 18 million Ghana cedis at a point that we claimed we had spent on planting for food and jobs, the $178 million Kelly GVG issue. And even moving away from the past, coming into the current, we can talk about the Infraco issue and the storm it has raised. We can talk about SML and others. So I want us to I don't want us to situate it in broad oddities. I want us to situate them in the proper context. If you put side by side the scandals under former President Mahama, the scandals under this administration, and we'll pose that same question to Edem Senanu and Dr. Osai Kwapong. Professor Jampo, is it light and darkness, night and day, as you say. Your thoughts?
I knew of all, in fact, you have chronicled a few of the scandals. But if you really want to, I know you've done that because we don't have a lot of time. But if you really want to go into it, then you see more of such corruption scandals in this regime compared to the previous one. And I'm saying these scandals plus what is done about them, plus the posturing and utterances of officials about them, all feed into the generation of the figures and statistics for our corruption perception indices. And it was because of that that I tried to lump all of them together and ask that you do a simple side-by-side comparison of the various CPIs under the two regimes. And it is a clear case of day and light. You are telling me that there is no corruption scandal in this particular regime that should necessitate the prosecution and the jailing of anyone. Abu Ghapele was jailed by his own government. And you think that we can't find some in this regime? All these are the kinds of things that feed.
The president says due process. Due process must be followed. That's what the president says.
Oh, due process. Yeah, but we cannot follow due processes in perpetuity. We cannot follow due processes if you give an a priori clearance of people who are expected to go through due process. I'm using the Cecilia Dafa case as an example again, that given the tone, given the utterance of the president around the time that the woman had not gone through any process, we all knew that it was not going to end anywhere. And today, here we are with the case. And so, don't behind the scenes stampede the process and publicly come and tell us that you believe in due processes. He was the one who said that he was going to use the ANAS principle in fighting corruption, even though I disagree with that principle. What is the stake of his usage of that principle in a fight against corruption? So please, I think that, like I said, he was given a flowery speech to go and read to a certain audience that I have described as sycophantic. And he knew that, well, these guys, they would end up even applauding me. That's why he went to see that. But he couldn't have read the statement to you guys in the media. He wouldn't have done that to an assemblage of critical minds or an assemblage of critical minds. He wouldn't have done that in the midst of academics. He wouldn't have done that. So please,
right.
I think that for me, if you say we should compare, it creates an impression that we are not clear even in our minds as to who has done what and who didn't do what. Please, we know what is happening. For this particular regime, you are telling us that in spite of all the scandals, everybody is okay. No problem. I think at the end of the day, the good people of Ghana, they are watching and they know what the realities of the situation, are.
All right.
It doesn't lie in the mouth of any executive president who has been given a speech to go and read to come and tell us that he has done better in fighting corruption than anybody. Corruption is corruption. We were not so happy with what was happening in the NDC's regime. That was why we felt that, look, we should kick out that regime for a better regime.
Right.
And it appears that we have sold our color television to go and buy black and white.
Thank you so much, Professor Jampo. I want to bring in Edem Senanu from the Citizens Movement Against Corruption in the conversation now. And I'm sure you've been following to this point. I mean, based on the issues, the scandals that Ben just chronicled, and the utterances of both the former president and the current president, who among these two would you say has demonstrated a will to fight corruption? Or what's your take on this issue in the first place?
Well, I don't think at the moment we are doing too good at all. And it looks like each dispensation, we seem to be declining in terms of the robustness with which we are tending to issues that arise and a commitment to ensuring that we are dealing with graft. And I think that the various benchmark assessments, if you take the CPI, our best performance ever was in 2014, when we had 48 points. I think the period 2013 to 2015 appears to have been our best performance. Under this dispensation, it looks like the best performance is actually the lowest in the previous regime. It tells you that we need to take this a lot more seriously. Indeed, we have been stagnant for the last 4 years on the CPI at 43. And most analysis shows that countries that stagnate, they tend to then have a faster decline subsequently. And so we are at risk of actually seeing a situation where the fight may just bottom out and then we are not making any gains at all. So in my view, we don't seem to have done as well as the previous regime, even though with the previous regime, we were not even satisfied. So it is not a situation where we can compare and say, therefore, A was better than B. No. I think that what happens is that there are new forms of graft that come up, new strategies being adopted by those in that space. And in each dispensation, one needs to configure and strategize how you're going to tackle corruption. And so the comparison may not always be, is a apples versus apples situation. That's not the scenario.
Are you saying we're experiencing a new form of graft? What we saw under former President John Dramani Mahama's regime and what we're experiencing now, there are some differences, which is also accounting for the stagnation you talk about. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not connecting the stagnation to it, but what I am saying is that each dispensation will have its own forms of corruption and graft, some new, some old, which leadership is required to strategize on how are we going to deal with this and work strongly together, collaborating with the stakeholders in the space. And I think that if we're doing a lot more of that, we would see greater inroads in tackling corruption in our country. At the moment, I think that the CPI speaks for itself. It says that Ghana has stagnated. We are nowhere near the high level of 48 points we had in 2014. I think that also speaks for itself. It suggests that something was done a bit better, if not much more better, in the previous regime. And so instead of patting ourselves on the back, we need to bring ourselves to the table and say, what do we need to do to move this battle, this fight much more further than we have achieved so far?
The president is saying that the fight against corruption takes due process. How do you react to that?
It's a challenging comment for me because, Article 284 talks about how a public officer should not put himself or herself in a position of potential conflict of interest, especially as it affects the performance of their functions. Now, it seems to me that any time we have had the president pass comments, as in the Cecilia Dapa or Chemawon to me situation and this recent one, it has been that the president is conflicted. And he may not be clear in his mind that really what he's doing is putting himself in a position of a conflict of interest because his association with particular people make him feel that they are innocent or potentially innocent, and he goes making statements that signal a certain trajectory, and that could influence the institutions that are mandated to investigate these issues. In my mind, therefore, even when he talks about due process, he's blinded by the fact that there are situations where he's not actually following due process. In my mind, he's not following the legal requirement that don't put yourself in a position of potential conflict of interest. Therefore, recuse yourself, don't make a comment, stay neutral. That allows objectivity to be the order of the day. So I think that the emphasis on due process is not cutting it. And I think that really, at this point, we should all be saying, bring the stakeholders to the table. Let's analyze where we are. Let's take a serious look at where we have failed and begin to try and address the gaps that we have seen in the past few years.
Adam, so as we cap off the conversation, I'm going to throw this question to you, to John Osai-Kwapong, to Professor Jampo, as we begin to wrap the conversation. The former president says, Akufo-Addo, you're a chief clearing agent. The current president says, I'm merely following due process. You were more corrupt than I was. But when you look at the tail of the tape, John Osai-Kwapong just reminded us of the fact that just how many years ago, if you looked at the public trust, confidence in the fight against corruption, it stood at around 60%. The last time, I believe it was last year, it had dwindled to 14%, 46% falling off. In this current administration, I don't know who has faced the music in terms of corruption-related matters. I'm talking about going into the cooler for any. The former president will cite Abu Gapile, among others, which Professor Jampo has mentioned. So my question then is, who has the upper hand, realistically, weighing both sides in the fight against corruption? How would you rank the two? That's the first one. And secondly, since the former president is trying to get back into office, do you trust him to do the right things in the fight against corruption this time round? I'll start with you, Edem Senanu. Those two questions. Who has the upper hand? Do you trust the former president?
Well, I don't know whether it's about trust. I think usually it's the historical record of what you've done. And I refuse to do some of these comparisons because, as I said, sometimes the factors are not exactly the same.
So let me put it this way. Which one has performed better?
But clearly in terms of the various assessments that have been done, it appears that the regime of the NDC had done something much better than the current regime. And it's not because it's a personal assessment as much as it is what the results are showing. And so I think that just looking at the two regimes and comparing them in terms of, we know that if you take the CPI, it became comparative, I think, in 2012 in terms of a reference or benchmark. So if I use that, in my view, it looks like we are not doing as well under this regime than we did in the previous one. And I guess that those who were involved in whichever regime will take the credit for that. Now, what was your second question?
Do you trust the former president? You had already started touching on that.
Well, to be honest with you, I have great difficulty when I listen to all the candidates. When the former president was speaking recently about corruption, what I didn't hear was what exactly is going to do differently. I could hear I'll go after all officials in this government who are not doing what is right and anyone in my government. But you know, it's about strategy. And I wish that on the political platform, we'll hear a lot more about the strategy. So at this point, I'm neutral. I'm not clear in my mind that Party A or Party B has the best offerings at the moment. I'm waiting to see how things pan out. And so I'm not entirely convinced that I'm hearing what it takes to make the difference in terms of what we will do going forward.
All right.
Same question, Professor Jampo, and then we'll do Dr. Kwapong, and it's a wrap.
Okay, I mean, whether we trust John Mahama or not, I kept asking myself some time ago that why would somebody want to become a president just for one term and go? And why is the person so upbeat and so interested in doing that? And then I answered later that probably he is interested in leaving a certain legacy. I thought that Akufo-Addo, his age, and given that 10, he was going to put that beyond a good legacy for Ghana, legacy out. At any time, he was this person that we had. But I strongly that.
Professor Jampo, for some reason we are struggling with your connection. I don't know whether you could move away just a little. I don't know. It's breaking.
Okay, is it better?
It's better now.
Okay, so I was saying that I feel that I can trust President Mahama now because it appears he just wants to be in office to correct wrongs that we have done in time past and to leave a legacy. I was expecting President Akufo-Addo to have preoccupied himself with this, given his age. I was hoping that, look, he's seen it, given it, that if it is age. And so he's right to doing things that a certain positive legacy that he is. He's not in to look at France and so on, that he's not interested in election. And so that he then that to have a certain letter in Joma.
Okay.
If truly interested in what is a legacy, then have capacity in doing that out. The other about
you would have to just reposition again as you make that final point. Just reposition again.
Yeah, the other bit about who has done better. I think that it is the track record, what has happened in the past and what is happening today that we can use in doing any meaningful scientific, comparison. Look, to the extent that the West of the previous regime is better than the good, of the current regime. Any meaningful, any well-meaning, discerning Ghanaian would be able to tell you that then, look, we didn't like the West, but it seems to be better than what is happening now. So what will be the assessment? The assessment is that even though the West wasn't good, then you would go for what you didn't like.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
But I want to hope and believe that as some of these discourses go on, those who are looking for power would also be listening and knowing that, look, an F is an F. If you come to the university, if you score 44%, it's an F. If you score 26%, it's also an F.
Okay.
Even though 44 is better than 26.
All right.
And so then it's a call on both, on the opposition that is seeking to get into power again. That you do more to correct what we didn't like if you get the mandate to govern again.
All right. Prof. Jampo, we are so grateful for your time this morning. We'll do Dr. John Osai Kwapong and wrap it up. Your take, Dr. Kwapong?
So yes, I mean on the first question, if again you go back to the one Afrobarometer that occurred under President Mahama's regime, former President Mahama's regime, 2014, only 25% rated the fight against corruption very positively. Yes, in the most recent 2022, that has gone down to 14%. So for me, as Professor Jampo just said, it's a question of lessons learned and what would you do differently, because whether you get a 44 or a 20 is both an F. And I think for me, that's the reminder to the former president that even though perceptions have worsened under this administration, back then, the perceptions were not the most glamorous either. If you look at Mo Ibrahim's Index of African Governance, and on the question of absence of executive corruption, yes, there's been a drop between the Mahama administration and the current administration. For me, at the end of the day, on the question of whether should the former president win the presidency and become president again, the key thing for me is lessons learned, what those perceptions did to hurt his administration, the narrative about him in the lead up to the 2016, and the will to do it and address it very differently, so that some of those past perceptions can be corrupted. For me, the saving grace is not so much that whoever has come up to you has performed worse, but it's more of on your own merit. How do you, correct some of the past missteps and fighting corruption differently than you did in the past?
All right, thank you so much, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. The question was simply, who has the superior record in terms of the fight against corruption? And our guest who joined us for the conversation was Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, a CDD fellow, that's the Center for Democratic Development, Professor Jampo, a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, and Edem Senanu with the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Thank you, gentlemen.
We also did have a Deputy Attorney General, Alfred.
Yes, we did have, yes. And so that's about that, Benjamin. Stagnation, we're not moving forward. Whether it's a due process or not, this is what we have.
It is what it is.
But coming up next, now, between 40 to 50% of residents and homeowners at EMEFS Estate along the Akosombo Highway are relocating to other parts of town due to the numerous challenges posed by the deplorable state of the only road that leads to their homes. The residents are expressing grave concerns over the high rate of acute respiratory conditions due to the incessant dust from the bad road, while others say their businesses have been forced to shut down. They tell my colleague, Carlos Caloni, that attempts to get the authorities to rectify the road have fallen on deaf ears. Here's a report from the community.
Constructed by the EMEFS Construction Company Limited some years ago, the less than 1 kilometer road of the Akosombo Road, running through the frontage of the EMEFS Hillview Estate in the Ningo Pram district of the Greater Accra region, has not only deteriorated, but is also causing landlords and residents to relocate from the community. Solomon Tete Akpeng is the financial secretary of the EMEFS Estate Residents Association.
People have invested in these residential houses, and even if you're not staying there, you want to rent it out. But because of the dust situation and the nature of the road, you are not able to attract tenants. Some come in, and when they see they access the road, they leave. So there are vacant houses in there. Meanwhile, you have invested, and maybe that investment, you did it because when you retire, you want to earn something from it, but you are not earning anything now. It's a non-earning asset for you now. And even for homeowners who are staying in there, some are forced to relocate to other places.
The situation is equally biting hard on investors, as the Chief Executive Officer of EMEFS Estate, Sichope Akpebu, laments declining property values and lack of interest from prospective buyers.
This road, to be honest, is really affecting business. Now, currently, I even have homeowners almost close to about 40 to 50% who are relocating to Accra just because of the bad state of the road and then the traffic. And even in our houses, now when even they come to do valuations for the houses, they look at the state of the road and access to the road and stuff. Nobody even wants to buy. They feel like the houses are overpriced. But our houses were even supposed to go up in prices 10% every year. But for the past 5 to 6 years, that is not even being able to be done because of the state of the road. You see these trucks passing here. They are not designed with this sort of tonnage like you can see them. They use here all the time to be passing here. The railway bridge that was done, there are alternative roads for them to pass. There are roads that the government obviously will have done sustainably for them to carry that much weight. But the amount of weight, even if you see thoroughly, have a look at the railway bridge, with what they are doing now, I will even say some of it is even coming off already.
Some residents who are now battling various respiratory conditions as a result are demanding rapid fixing of the road.
It's not raining, so you realize that the road is also dusty. So me like this, most of the time, I used to wear nose masks. When I'm going to school, I used to wear nose masks because of the dust. So, and I'm also asthmatic patient. So if dust enter me small, like I'll be I won't feel comfortable.
I have allergies. So the dust, when it blows, it irritates my nose. You see that I start to sneeze or I start to cough. I rub my eye. So people come, you're rubbing your eye, you're sneezing, then they feel like maybe the food or whatever you're selling is contaminated.
As you can see, I wear shades and I have to go for checkup like every month. And the doctors are saying the same thing because of the dust. The dust here is very bad.
When the cars, even the small cars and then the big trucks are moving out, then you see that the dust is coming out. So because of that, as I'm talking right now, I have cold, so you can feel it in my voice. I have cold, so the road is not good. So they should come and do something about it for us.
Assembly member for the Mataheko electoral area, Peter Akle-Ajiman, urges the authorities to address residents' concerns about heavy trucks damaging the railway overpass.
Residents have called for tippers not to apply this very road because of the weight of the cars and then the railway bridge also. We don't know the capacity that is going to carry. Therefore, they are calling out the way the tippers are applying here, they are not happy with it. So I think if the DC can also come in so that we look at it critically and see how we can create a proper road for the tippers to also apply, that will best help the people.
Business losses, increase in respiratory diseases, relocation of landlords, negative impact on vehicles, and fear of bridge collapse are major concerns of residents. Residents fear these conditions will send them to early graves as they urge authorities to rehabilitate the road. For Joy News, Carlos Caloni, EMEFS Estate, Mataheko.
So on the back of that development, we're going to be having some interactions with some people affected, but we're also going to have an interaction with the CEO of EMEFS Construction Limited in the person of Asichope Akpebu. He joins the conversation. Mr. Akpebu, good morning. You probably would have to unmute so we can hear you, sir.
Please unmute, Mr. Akpebu.
It's unmuted. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We can hear you now. Now, looking at the situation where, residents are complaining about the deplorable state of the only road leading to their homes, as CEO of this entity, how long has this lasted and what measures have you put in place to remedy the situation so far?
Good morning again to you and your cherished listeners. This issue has actually started happening since 2018. Where with myself and some of the homeowners, we spent to 700,000 Ghana cedis to fix the road. After which we've also been spending money to always make sure we tar the road, patch the potholes and all that. And then at the point the railway line came in, heavy usage of trucks, which we pleaded with the DCE to help us block, to restrict, but nothing is being done. So over the years till date, I keep on resurfacing the road. Last year, September, I happened to resurface the road, poured 040 on it to make it motorable for the homeowners to have access, because a lot of them started moving out. And when you put houses up for sale, they were never selling. All pleas to the government to have some people coming to shape the road never happens. We've even been told there is a contract that has been awarded to the contractor who apparently is waiting for funds to have it done. To date, it's not done.
Do you know the name of the contractor?
Unfortunately, it's escaped me, but I can get that and then let you know later. So,
but how long? How long has this situation, prevailed?
Oh, since 2016.
Since 2016.
Yes, we have videos even when railway line was working. Basically, when they were doing the sea defense project, even at the Pampam area, all the boulders were using this road linking to the VRA gas plant side. And basically, even cars pass here at dawn, those who want to avoid axle weight, 2 a.m., 1 a.m., you have boulders like trailers of cars passing about 100 trucks and everything. We have videos to all of that. We've spoken, but nothing is being done.
And now, sweetie, residents are complaining about acute respiratory infections. If this is the cause that you use every day, obviously at some point, some dust will get in there. And if you're doing it on a daily basis, it could be pretty problematic.
These are serious issues. But let's stay on this for a bit more. And let me bring in the municipal roads engineer for Sherman and Ningu Pampram. That is in the person of Joseph Kole Commodore. Joseph, this road is less than 3 kilometers from the EMEFS police station to the VRA junction. In fact, it serves as a major alternative for the motorists from Afienya heading towards Tema as well as Accra. Why is it still in this state?
Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers too. The Assembly has had a lot of engagement with the MS residents for that stretch of road, and like you said, it's a very key network within the district. We've done the assessment. We sent a proposal to the Department of Urban Roads. Our checks reveal that it has been forwarded to the Ministry for approval. So that's what we are hoping. Now, once the road has been awarded, the contractor will come to the site and remedy any defects that we can have a good network.
How long ago since your last conversation with the Department of Urban Roads?
Oh, I think last year, late last year.
So we're in the 6th month of this year. Have you had any interaction at all with them? Because residents are raising concerns over the use of this road, and it's triggering serious health conditions. What have you done this year to ensure that the situation is better? As part of the maintenance work, we also engage on routine maintenance in terms of reshaping of the road. So with the onset of the rains, we are hoping once the rains come down, we will continue with the grading of the road so that we can improve access in that network. Benjamin.
And so in terms of the railway line, though, the bridge on the railway line, what's the plan for that?
Like I said, once we have the project approved, we've done the design, we'll connect from the EMEFS junction to the DPS stretch. So we'll not have that issues in terms of that road network.
So you have approval or not?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I said, we forwarded the proposal to the Department of Urban Roads.
How long has it been since you forwarded the proposal?
Last year, late last year.
Late last year. So it's been give or take 7, 8 months, 9 months since that.
We hope before the end of the year.
You hope before the end of 2024?
Yes, we'll get approval.
In the meantime, as this approval waits, people are developing chronic respiratory issues, acute ones. These things, they come and they could be with you for life. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, like I said, we'll also engage on routine maintenance, reshaping of the road.
What does that look like? What does that routine maintenance look like? Are you going to water the road,
grading
down?
It involves grading of the road, adding some gravels, then watering and rolling of the road.
And when is this going to start?
We hope once we are looking at the weather, it's not the best engaging grading activities this time. We are hoping within 2 months from now we can do something.
Sichope was just telling us that this has been going on since 2016, and you only now sending a proposal last year. What has been the conversation about? I'm curious to know what has been the interaction. Now that you're waiting for approval since 2016.
So, like I said, once we are waiting for the approval, there's a routine maintenance program that we have within the network, not only the MFS states, but the 25 enclave that we engage on. So that's what we'll be doing before the approval process.
The grading, watering, and other things you've spoken of that you do, when you do them, what does it do to the road, and how long does the effect last?
Obviously, it improves the access of the road. It's a temporary measure, though.
Right.
But like I said, once we have this weather condition, sometimes it's difficult doing this nature of work.
I'm particularly concerned about, yes, the road must be somewhat motorable. So let's say semi-motorable. But what does it do in terms of the dust? I ask because if you water a place and let the dust settle, you probably have to do the watering either at dawn and in the evening, or at least the following day. So I just want to know, what do you expect it will do to the dust? Is it going to be a daily affair to control the dust? I'm specifically concerned.
Exactly. It's going to reduce the dust. Once you water your row, it's going to reduce the dust.
Okay. Just a final question, though. Since this has gone on for so long and you don't have full approval for the main work to be done, how are you going to source funds for this bit that you're talking about, that in 2 months' time you'll be doing, the grading, the watering, and all that? Where are you getting the money from?
Basically, the assembly support in terms of their fund, common fund or IGF, and also the Department of Urban Roads routine maintenance budget. We are hoping once we get a budget approved for routine maintenance, we can engage in the grading work.
How much is the budget?
Pardon?
How much is the budget? The budget for the routine maintenance?
We've not received the approval yet.
Well, how much did you request for?
We sent a proposal, like I said, both the routine maintenance to the Department of Urban Roads. So we are yet to receive the approval.
Commodore, I think the question is pretty straightforward. Yes, you are yet to receive approval. We're just asking, how much was it for the proposal, the proposed amount? How much was it?
I think for the routine maintenance, it's not just the grading works. It involves pothole patching to minor drainage repairs and other activities. So not just the grading works.
And if you put them together, you don't have a figure for us?
I think the proposed budget that was allocated is about 300,000, but we are yet to get approval. Yeah.
Well, we're grateful that you took the time to join us on this matter. We're immensely grateful for your time. Maybe we'll just conclude with Mr. Akpebu, CEO of EMEFS Construction Limited. Do you take any consolation, solace, in the words that you've just heard from Commodore, who is the municipal roads engineer for Ashaiman and Ningo Prampram? Hello, Mr. Akpebu.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes. Commodore has, we've had these conversations before, but like you said, the reshaping since 2016, I think even since we started this estate in 2010, none of them have ever done anything on this road. It's always been the developer shaping, patching, and doing everything. We, as a community and the developer, we've reached out to them before saying, listen, how can we help to see how best we can do this? We propose some time. If you don't have the funds to do it, and we as a community and the developer, we go ahead and do it, then we'll need to offset it maybe with our property rates that you take from us. Because basically, you take property rates from us and you don't do anything in the community, in the area. So if that be the case, we are willing to, now that they are saying this, maybe by the end of the year, people on that whole stretch, like you said, most of them are retired. They don't even want to come back home again because of the dust. Now they want to put their houses up for sale. So with what has been said, I honestly hope it goes through, but I don't think it can go through this year. We are committed to help, to work together to have this done. And the key thing is for them to help us restrict the tonnage of the trucks that use the road, because it's destroying the roads.
Well, Mr. Akpebu, thank you for engaging us this morning. We hope by these actions we can get better results on that stretch. We are also grateful too. So just to state categorically, Joseph Kwale Commodore, he's the municipal roads engineer for Ashaiman and Ningo Prampram districts. And of course, we also had joining the conversation Sichope Akpebu, he's CEO, EMEFS Construction Limited. Before we veer into the next conversations we're going to have, let me draw your attention, all HD Plus subscribers, that starting from the 13th of June 2024, SES HD Plus Ghana will provide HD channels to free-to-air TV homes at no cost. What this means is that all users of the multi-TV platform will have access to HD channels without paying HD Plus subscriptions. Now, there are some key points to remember. Let's start with the first. As of the 16th of April 2024, no new HD Plus subscription purchases or activations will be available. Existing HD Plus decoders will receive free-to-air channels until the 13th of June 2024. 2. Subscribers with active subscriptions beyond the 13th of June 2024 will be compensated. Such customers will be contacted by the HD Plus number 0242 439 872 from the 30th of April. Such subscribers are encouraged to call the HD Plus number, I repeat, 0242 439 872 from the 1st of June 2024. TikTok. The third point, from 30th May 2024, update your HD Plus decoder to access the new free-to-air HD channels. Support will be available until the 20th of June 2024, so kindly look out for the over-the-air software and upgrade your decoder upon release of that software. And finally, users of compatible Samsung QLED and UHD integrated TV sets should know that the My HD Plus TV app and My HD Plus mobile app will not be available from the 30th of May 2024. So do note, to redeem subscription compensation, confirm your HD Plus number, provide a valid Ghana ID, it could be your Ghana card, and a mobile money number by the 30th of April 2024. Well, that's how we're going to cap it off for now. We'll take a break. We'll be back shortly.
The poor state of road impacts everything in and around Afram Plains. One of the most significant issues is the huge teacher deficit, as educators refuse posting to the districts, which is struggling with educational challenges. Businesses are grinding to a halt, and school children fear for their lives.
The street light is not more there, so you be afraid. So yeah,
all the time. All the time you be afraid. So if I wake up, if I'm going to school, car can hit me. My father have motor. Every time, my father will be complaining all the time. Our road here is not nice. Even as for this road, all the time accident can
happen. Yeah.
Even motor, if you driving motor and then you will not be careful all the time. If as for these photos can cause accident, and then so accidents will be going on like all the time. So as for Dongo Chrome, our road is not nice, so you have to help us.
In March 2023, government dismissed a joint statement by members of Parliament of Afram Plains to the effect that the Roads Ministry had diverted funds meant for the construction of that stretch to its stronghold. According to the Roads Ministry, the reallocation of a $98 million facility, an initial contribution from government for the construction of that road, was due to the 2023 debt restructuring exercise. It stated that the decision to apply the allocation under the $750 million Afrexim Bank facility was specifically to cater for the Epedja to Ejuso section of the Accra-Kumasi Highway. This raises the question, it's been over 7 years. What happened to the sourcing of funds for the Afram Plains roads?
I've been to the regional highways, I've been to the National Highways Authority, I've been to the road minister. Our request, our proposals has been to the former road minister, not the current. Honorable Amwakwanta, I've been to him, I've been to the regional highways director Okoto, Engineer Okoto, and we've been to the national. All this, myself, my colleague at TSA Evans, we've did all this movement.
The poor state of roads in Afram Plains is the biggest worry for residents, followed by the need for quality education and addressing the teacher deficit. But the question remains, how long will they have to cry and demand repairs before their pleas are heeded? Ideally, this stretch traveling from Eche Amanfrom to Afram Plains should take you just 45 minutes. But the new team has had to travel for 2 good hours. And that's even because of the vehicle we are using. I'm just wondering, assuming they are supposed to be using the everyday commercial vehicle, a motorcycle or a bicycle, and you're trying to catch the pontoon, what happens? Forget about the state of the roads. The stretch has become so isolated, creating issues of insecurity. What do you expect? To be traveling on this stretch at night when you are not sure of your next step. School children are afraid to travel the stretch. People needing healthcare are afraid to travel the stretch. Health workers, teachers will not accept posting to this community because of the state of the road. When we say deprived Ghana, this is a typical example of deprivation.
Perhaps it's time for authorities to rethink their priorities and show Ghanaians that they care about them.
I need you to turn your back, just turn.
I should turn.
Yes. What do you make? What do you make? What do you make of something like this? Just tell me. How do you feel seeing something like this?
Yeah, truly.
Truly what?
The assembly has taken steps. That's why I just told you very soon.
No, I'm not interested. I just want to know, how do you feel about this?
It's not good.
It's not good.
Yeah.
You drive on it, right?
Yeah, I drive on it. I walk on it.
It doesn't feel good.
Now the way in that book.
It doesn't feel good, does it? It doesn't.
Come again?
I say it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's been 7 years.
But it's been more than 7 years.
But per your assurance,
yeah,
equipment
are on the way coming.
And it will be fixed.
Sure.
Soon.
It will be re-gravelled and reshaped.
Soon.
Very soon.
Thank you. My name is Emefa.
My name is Emefa Ewenam Atiamwa Eli, reporting for Joy News, Afram Plains.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, before we get to other matters, here's an important message for you, inviting you to escape to Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, the Jurapa, Dubai. You've seen the rest, now it's time to see the best. Take a break from work, take a break from the South. The Royal Cozy Hills Hotel is a place to relax, rewind, and re-energize. It is away from the stress of the South. Now, this is what awaits you. Unforgettable safari experience, amazing array of wildlife, including lions, hippopotamus, zebras, ostriches, among many others, using the spacious and well-secured game tour vehicles or quad bikes. 2, water sports, such as jet skiing, boat or canoe rides, among others. And 3, various family games to keep you and your family excited and entertained every day. And 4, great tourist attractions in the Upper West region, including the Mushroom Rock, Slave Caves, etc. Escape from the South, escape to the North, escape to Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, Jurapa, Dubai, for an unforgettable safari experience. Please call them on 050-169-4280 or 024-88-44463 for reservations or further inquiries. Now, so this morning, we bring you regional voices as we tell you from our correspondent in the various regions the concerns of the people in their daily engagements with them. Mostly, our issues are centered around here in the Greater Accra region. Today, we want to expand and take the views of how people are faring in other regions. Benjamin.
Well, we'll start with our correspondent, Peter Senu, in the OT region. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Ben.
It's good to have you.
As well.
Right, it's good to have you join the conversation. We'll also be interacting with Martina Bugri in the northern region and, of course, Isaac Nonya in the Savannah region as well. But, Peter, what are some of the the crucial issues affecting the people in your region that you would like to highlight this morning?
Well, Benjamin, as for the economic hardship, it's on all of us, and then we cannot run away from that fact. But there are specific issues that I would say are peculiar to the T region, which resident wants authorities to, as a matter of urgency, provide some solution. The first one on the list of the people, especially those who commute to other regions through the regional capital, Dambai, the frequent breakdown of the ferry on that stretch is a cause of worry to them. As we may know, last week, there were, I think, it broke down for about 5 days or so. And then it got fixed, I think, just last Monday. And so commuters who would have used that as a shorter route to the north would rather have to pass through the eastern corridor, which portions are very terrible to ply. And so that is on their lips if government would heed or make do its promise by constructing a bridge across that portion. I mean, the Dambai River at Dambai, so that crossing, even if the ferry breaks down, they can still cross the river with their vehicles. And I have seen patients referred from the Karachi West Hospital to 37 Military Hospital who have had to stay at the other side of the river bank for nearly 3 hours on oxygen and other consumable medicines. Health personnel are transporting from the Volta region to the other side, which would have to reach a cooling system within a specific time. They stay under the sun and under the weather for a long time. And all these things are affecting the quality of life and, in fact, health delivery of the people. And so this is urgent for the people. The next one is the very place the ferry is landing. In fact, if the ferry is fixed today or they get a replacement for the ferry and it works, regularly, the landing spot for the ferry is another major issue residents have had to contend with. Vehicles, in fact, cargo trucks, getting on board and getting off board the ferry is a major issue. We have heard of vehicles falling into the river some time ago. So it takes the skillfulness of the drivers to get on board, especially if it rains and the area gets so muddy. It takes the skillfulness of the drivers to get on board and to get off board. So these are the various issues, especially these are economic issues on the mind, on the table of the people. In fact, the Dambai Town Road, we have complained about this time and again, but they are still talking about it. The road network within the region. We have had some roads fixed. The Karachi Town roads, the Almighty Eastern Corridor from Jessica into the Dopepesu. But there are other critical roads in the region that government would have to pay attention to. We talk about Dambai to Nkwanta. It's a critical route for traders, especially on market days. They use that route. The economic impact of it, it cannot be underestimated. If you are moving from anywhere KJB, Jessica to Raura, between Jessica and Raura is also not good. So you are going for medical treatment and you have to inhale much dust.
Right.
Unless you are driving, in the comfort of your air-conditioned car. Apart from that, it's a terrible thing to bear to go for a medical review or a medical attention. So these are some of the issues inter alia in the region that residents would want government to pay attention to as a matter of urgency. Ben.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter Senu from the OT region. Let's now go to Martina Bugri, if we have Martina Bugri with us from the Northern region. Martina, what have your... Hello, Martina?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So what are some of the issues that residents or people in the Northern region have or have brought to your attention?
3 issues they have brought to my attention. Food prices. In the past 3 months, we've had a lot of increases in food prices. So people are complaining that when they go to the market, if you bought something for maybe 200 Ghana cedis last week, the following week you go to the market, there's an addition. And so it means that when you are going into the market, you would have to anticipate to get additional funds so that you'll be able to buy something you bought the previous week. Somebody set an example. She said the last time she bought rice, she bought a bag for 380, and when she went back to buy after it was finished, she had to buy at 450. And it means that she had to look for additional money. She said oil, she bought at 80 cedis, and this time she's buying at 170. And so the issue of price increases in food items has been a major issue that is being discussed in the region. One other issue is the busing of people to various centers to register and its implications, especially going into the December polls. We have had issues of guns being fired several times in different centers. And so people are worried that the security of the region is at stake because of what they have seen now, that is even registration. So they are looking at going into the elections. It might be bigger than what we are seeing now. One other issue is the NHIS and then the dialysis that has been declared. Some age groups could benefit free. People are hoping that they will go beyond just the under 18 and over 60 and involve others who are unable to raise money to go for dialysis. So these are the issues that they are discussing in the region.
Thank you so much, Martina. Ben, it looks like these issues are not very unfamiliar with us here. Roads resulting in harsh economic situations, food prices, busing of people to various electoral centers, and this issue about National Health Insurance Scheme. But we also have Isaac Nonya from the Savannah region joining us. Isaac, welcome to the program. Now, what are the people of the Savannah region saying? What are they lamenting about?
Yes, first of all, the issues here in Savannah region are numerous, but we need to center them around 4 critical areas. 1, insecurity. 2, political violence. 3, hikes of tractor services, and another bar road network. If you look at the security situation in Bola district, of late, you would have heard that there are these unnatural killings within the district. And this year alone, they have experienced about 3 of them. One, a security man head was smashed at his duty post. The killer were not found. A driver of the ambulance services was also killed, shot and killed. Another male resident was also killed, bundled into a fertilizer sack, and dumped in the gutter along the road. The recent one that sparked more tension and fears among residents has to do with a young man by the name Chairman, who was seen the previous night, and the following day he was seen with a slaughtered fowl on top of his remains. I think these are the issues. You might have heard of this IDP deploying more personnel to the district.
Isaac, please go back about 5 seconds. I missed what you said. Did you say he was found with a slaughtered what on his head? Oh, it appears like...
I think he said a chicken, slaughtered chicken.
Okay, Isaac is back. Isaac.
Yes.
You were saying?
I was saying that the unnatural killings in Bola district has sparked a lot of fears.
We seem to have a bit of a challenge with Isaac Nonya in the Savannah region. He was talking about some incident there, some killings, and the slaughtering of a chicken on someone's head and some of those developments. But we'll try to reconnect with him and get the full story from him. Isaac Nonya is back. Isaac, can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, just go back and start again so we get the full thrust of what you were saying.
I'm trying to say that in Bola district, you realize that last year, about 15 people were killed. And in the sense, when the person is killed, one part of his body will be shown. The entire body will be buried, leaving half of it. Maybe only the hand, only the head, only the leg. And this year, before June, 3 people have been killed similarly. And yet this month, the last person who was killed before the whole tension spark was a young man known in the community. This man was spotted in the evening and the following day, his lovely body was found, and a red cock slaughtered and kept on his body. Now, people are linking some of such killings to the Galamsey activities in Bole. Bole happened to be the hub of Galamsey in the region. Aside that, security have been deployed to the area. But that does not take away the fear from residents, especially workers like teachers, nurses, and then also students. Parents have adopted a new style by policing their children to school and out, because all that is no more safe. But Benjamin, the interesting spectacle in Bole now is that residents have imposed a self-curfew on themselves, to the extent that the then busy Bole business town, you will not see any soul, any layman or woman walking on the street of Bole or selling or buying after 8 p.m. Wow. That is the situation there. Now, if you go to North Gonya district, there, every blessed year, you will have a farmer die in the hands of a herdsman. This year alone, 2 people have been catalyzed, 1 is dead, but there have not been any arrest. Likewise, the case of Bole, there have not been a single arrest regarding the 20 people who have been killed mysteriously. And that is a concern among residents from both sides. Farmers in North Gonya are very worried of their own plight, that chiefs and the security look concerned. When I say look of concern, they are saying that they don't arrest their perpetrators because some are being identified, yet nothing is done about that. Now, if you come to tractor services, particularly in Bole and Damago, an acre goes for 250, which last year was 200. So farmers don't understand why other districts still plow 200 or 180 per acre, but in Damago and Bole districts, they charge 250, in other cases, 300. And when they appeal to authorities like the district assemblies and then the traditional rulers, they seem to be helpless, saying that the availability or access to tractors in this region are very, very limited. And for that matter, they should try to move or say anything. These operators or owners of tractors will leave or desert the region. Now, we look at solar districts. We comment the authorities there. Last year, 2 people were killed in a similar way. 1 was killed in the school. The last person who was killed and they managed to put a stop to it was another male resident who was killed and buried in a football pitch close to the school, leaving only the head showing to know that somebody was killed and buried here. I was told the authority put in place, and that's up to now, they have not recorded any such deaths in the district. Damago, the political violence, you can't take it away from it. Between NPP and NDC, there have been clashes leading to an attack of some of them. And some of them also got injured, all because both parties are trying to be vigilant regarding the who transfers his or her vote to Damago if you are not a resident. So the issues bordering about these areas will end up with the road network. You remember the famous Fufusu Solar Road highways? That road is in a mess now. It has become very, very bad to the extent that commuters, especially indigents, who try to plow those roads to their farms, and then those traveling from Tamale to Wa find it very difficult. And then drivers who are not ready to plow those areas will increase their fares. So that if you go and they also go with you and their cars, vehicles get damaged, they can work on them. The most dangerous stretch in this road is between Larbanga towards Tona highways. The potholes have become like streams. To the extent that drivers are very worried and commuters are also here talking about you won't get any more trouble or very nice vehicle plying this road. So these are some of the issues bothering residents and passerbys in Savannah region.
Well, thank you so much, Isaac. Nonya, that's some story there.
It is quite, I don't know, but more than we'll definitely have to get into. Let's now bring in Albertori from the Upper East region, and then we'll cross over to the Upper West region with Rafiq Salam. But Albertori, what can you tell us? What is the latest from the Upper East region? What are some of the difficulties people are facing there?
And so here in the Upper East region, the main issues are not too different from what my other colleagues are reporting. First, the issue of inflation, which is affecting everything. But in our part of the country, the main issue that people are complaining about when it comes to inflation is the cost of transport fares, especially if you have to travel from the Upper East region to the southern part of the country, like Kumasi or Accra. You have to spend so much. You need at least 200 cedis to be able to board a bus from Bolga to Kumasi, and around 300 cedis to get to Accra. So if you are going to Kumasi or Accra and then to return, you are looking at nearly 1,000 cedis just for transportation alone. So this is becoming something that is worrying a lot of people, especially for traders who have to travel all the time down south of the country to buy goods and come back and sell, because that automatically translates into the prices of the items that they are bringing as well. So this is one issue. And just like Martina talked about, the price of food items, you know, is also skyrocketing. So a lot of people are complaining because the prices of these items are increasing almost on a daily basis. So it's a source of worry for many people. And both in the Upper East region, when you are coming into the Upper East region from the southern part of the country, last year when we did potholes exhibition, I reported about a stretch coming from the Bolgatanga Senior High School into the regional capital, Bolgatanga. The road is so terrible that many people wonder if this is a road leading into the regional capital. There are so many potholes, the road is so bad, and people have to virtually learn to be skillful in terms of how they ride their motorcycles, how they drive, how they use their tricycles. And we are recording a lot of road crashes on that stretch. Now, we talk about the Bolga-Boku Road as well. The road was being constructed. In fact, from the last time we spoke to the last regional minister, he told us that the road was about 60% done. It became more trouble than it used to be, but somehow the contractor left the road. And then when you are entering into Bolgatanga from Boko, that part of the road also became so bad, and even worse because there's a very huge bridge around that area. So the potholes are so many, and because it's very close to the town, you have a lot of traffic and a lot of confusion, especially very early in the morning, and then in the evenings when people close from work and they are going back home. That part of the road is so bad, and a lot of people are complaining about. And then we talk about security as well. People are concerned because we have a lot of porous borders in the region. Recently, the Ghana Immigration Service commissioned a number of border posts at Nahum, Pulmakom, and other places. So that has helped a little bit. But people, people were getting concerned about how, you know, the porous nature of our borders are, and considering that we were getting close to the election, people had cause to complain about kinds of people that were coming to the country.
Right.
But recently, the Ghana Immigration Service is really taking it seriously, and we are seeing some improvement in the border areas as well.
All right. Thank you, Albert. Sorry for bringing us those details and updates from the Upper East region. Let's now cross over to the Upper West region and speak to Rafiq Salam. Rafiq, it's good to have you here. What are your people saying?
Like what Albert and also Martina and then also Isaac has spoke about, you know, these are people who says the same grandfathers and then the same grandmothers. And so the challenges are virtually the same. And so talking about the Upper West region, we are talking about the Deplorable road network in the region. The major headache for the people for now has to do with the Solar Bombay Highway. Now, traveling on that road is now a nightmare. There are a lot of gaping manholes on that stretch. And so that has also caused a lot of, the transfers to go higher. And so the private commercial vehicle operators will tell you that, the poor nature of the road has also made them to increase the transportation fares in the region, which is not really helping the people in the region. It used to be about 12, 11 hours from Wa to Accra, about the 170, about the 744 kilometers road. But now you are going to, if one has to go to Accra with a commercial vehicle, because of the poor nature of the road, they are doing like 16, 17 hours on the road, which the people are not really happy about. The second has to do with the road from Hang to Wa, and then also to, let me say, Tumu Hang Wa road. For now, the portion of Tumu to JFC somehow is better, but from JFC coming to Nendowala, it's really hectic. And this is an appeal that the people have made for over 7 years to the president to do. There have been several promises by the government that they were going to fix this road. But as I tell you that between Nandawala and then also Hen, it's really a headache for commuters on the road. The rains yesterday didn't help matters. And so a lot of vehicles on that stretch got stuck or stuck on the road there. And so apart from that, there's this issue of water in the Wa municipality. Wa is having its water from the Jamboso water plant, which is located in the Wa West district. Because of the erratic nature of the power supply to that area, virtually almost like every 2 other weeks that there's a breakdown at the Jamboso plant. And because of that, the people are not able to get continuous water from this source. And so it's really a major worry for the people. And also the increasing tariffs in terms of electricity and also water, which is also the people are not really comfortable. Lastly, has to do with the insecurity in the region. Isaac was talking about some killings. So now, I don't know whether the issue of justice, people are trying to take the law into their own hands, and then on the quiet, somehow they are killing some of these suspected robbers. Just a couple of days ago, around Danko and Wa, somebody went, one of these suspected robbers, there were about 2, I'm told, went to rob a mobile vendor, and then one of them was arrested and lynched by the people. Another week, somebody tried to also break into somebody, so the person was also killed. So it's a lot of insecurity in the region, and people are not really happy about the way things are panning out.
Thank you so much, Rafiq Salam from the Upper West region. Now let's descend from the northern belt to the eastern and western region, starting with the western region. In Natalia Kwanzaa is on ground. In Natalia, how are the people of your region faring?
Well, City, they are okay. So for the western region, just like the whole of the country, the economic condition is really having a bite on the people over here. So you go to the market and you buy tomatoes for 1 for 5 cedis, and considerably, if you are a customer, the market woman over there will give you 2 for 5 cedis or 10 cedis. And so when it comes to economic hardship, we are really having a bite here in the western region. We talk about road construction. There's a lot of road construction ongoing, especially within the Sekondi Takoradi Metropolis. The main road from Sekondi to the Park-Grants Runabout, people of the western region of Sekondi Takoradi would testify to what I'm saying. There is road construction ongoing. The PTC interchange, the famous one, has been stalled for some time. The Minister of Road recently visited our region, and he said there was going to be some few works on it to make it a bit more trouble for the for commuters over there to use that stretch because the PTC interchange is supposed to link Aguna and Kwanta to the western north part of this region. Also, from Aguna and Kwanta to Takoradi, there is also road construction. And so Takoradi that ideally, or the western region that ideally, you would not see traffic. There is huge traffic everywhere you pass.
I think we lost in Natalia there for a second. We'll try to reconnect back with Natalia, but let's go to the Eastern region and speak to Kofi Siam. Kofi, I hope you're well. What are the people of your region saying?
Okay, so there are three main issues in the Eastern region. One is the high cost of living, just as my other colleagues have mentioned. The second one is the deplorable nature of the roads, of the road network in the region. And the third one has to do with sanitation issues. So with the high cost of living, it has to do with transportation, the cost of transportation. So it's been very high for some time now. For instance, if you want to travel from Akufo-Addo to Kumasi, it used to be around 70 cities, but now it's going for 85 and 95 Ghana cedis, depending on the kind of vehicle you would want to pick. And with regards to the cost of items in the market, it's really telling on the people. Because if you come here, for instance, just as Natalia said, one tomato will cost like 5 cedis. If you are lucky, you have to. The other items are also very expensive if you want to talk about that. Then the issue of deplorable road network. Usually when you visit the Achim areas and the Kriapim range, their road network is quite good. But when you come down to the regional capital, where everyone was expecting that the road will be quite better than the other areas, it's really bad. For instance, if you travel from Asesua to Akufo-Addo, the kind of dust you meet on that road, it's very bad. Even though the road is under construction, the kind of things that go on the road, it's really telling on the people. If you want to talk about the issue of armed robbery, because of the road network, the robbers have taken advantage of the issue and they are robbing people of their money and their other belongings. Then the issue of sanitation. The regional capital has really suffered a lot in terms of sanitation. The Zoom Lion company, which is supposed to be doing the work in collaboration with the district assembly, for some time now has been shirking their responsibility. If you come here, for instance, on weekends, you find garbage on the streets, especially around the central business district. And one would wonder why the rubbish will be left there for a very long time before the company will come for them. So if you ask me in a nutshell, these are the three issues affecting the people of the Eastern region.
Thank you. Well, Natalia is back on the line. Ina, you were in the middle of saying something. You have the final words now.
Yes, sweetie. So for the Western region, like I had indicated earlier, just like the rest of the country, the economic hardship is really having a toll on the people over here. Yes, there is road construction ongoing in Sekindi, Takoradi. But there are other places which also is, suffering when it comes to road construction. When you go to the cocoa growing areas, somewhere like Asenkigwa, when you go to Enche, Alubu, and all those communities, there is the issue of road, which is really a major concern for these people, especially now that we are in the raining season. Yes, so it becomes very difficult for them to commute to any part of the region. So if you are in a community and your road is that bad, meaning once it rains or once we are in the rainy season, you are stuck there. For some people, they would have to cross river, or the rain would form into a river on its own for them to cross before they get to the other side of the region. The issue of Galamsey is still on. Though government has done well in past, but you go to communities. You know, Western region is the cocoa-growing community region. It's a resource in that region, sorry. And so Galamsey is still a menace here. Farmers are day in, day out crying that they are losing their livelihood. And in the long run, this Galamsey affects everyone, even those of us within the capital.
Okay, thank you so much, Natalia Kwanzaa, who came to us from the Western region. Benjamin Akaku, it looks like the value is the same everywhere.
I was stunned when I heard that even in places like the Western region, among others, tomatoes are going for 5 cedis there. I was just, for a moment, I was wondering whether I was hearing correctly. In Accra, sometimes because of the distance and the bad roads, but if in places that are, heading towards the middle belt of the country, western, eastern regions, you are having the cost of, the basics that high, then I don't know. But interesting stories we've got. Those who joined us for these interactions, in Natalia Kwanzaa, you just heard from the Western region, our correspondent. We had Rafiq Salam in the Upper West region, our correspondent there as well. And then we had Martina Bugri in the Northern region, Isaac Nonya in the Savannah region, Anas, we couldn't speak to Anas a bit today, but Kofi Siao in the Eastern region, Albert Sori in the Upper East region, and Peter Senu in the OT region as well. I don't know whether I mentioned Isaac Nonya in the Savannah region, but that is it. Hopefully you've enjoyed our conversations for today, but we have another photo of the day.
Yes. If you're ready, photo of the day for you, right there on your screens.
All right, so reflective of tradition, and they are blowing the abembeng or those horns. In our traditional setting, we would play a lot of those, depending on which ethnic group or cultural group is performing. And we see a rich display, rich tapestry of culture, from the clothing to the horns to the headgear to the kente and everything in between. That's our photo of the day.
I love the colors. It's so vibrant. And I must say, the colored Mensa captures the essence of moments, Yeah. I love his photos. But it's a wrap for us, the Ben and Sweetie Show. We are back on your screens tomorrow at 6 a.m. Joy News Desk is up next with Faustina Safo.